Episode 142 of the BIC podcast. On this episode, Carlos actually went down a rabbit hole of research. I know. I'm as shocked as you are. This is scandalous, is what it is. We're going to take a break from the Dead and Peace Accords. Sorry, Jake. But don't worry, on Friday, we will be back for week 4 of the Dead and Peace Accords for you, because it's important. We got to keep this going. We don't want to let it die. So we'll have that. We'll have a couple of cards that were pickups as well. Silly card of the weeks, as always. Record turnout on the silly card of the week. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then also, we've got some interest. I have a couple of interesting pickups that we're going to talk about a little bit. And then, as I said, we'll also have a little conversation at the end because something stuck with Brandon about a recent video. We'll discuss that and more on this episode of the BAC Podcast. Yes, under the watchful eyes of Brett Favre. Yeah, not only that, if all that wasn't exciting enough, I forgot, because I was removing some stuff around in the refrigerator, Brandon, I forgot that there was beer located in one corner of it that was covered by some other stuff. Forbidden, forgotten beer.
Ooh.
This is exciting. This is very exciting.
Is that Stella Artois?
Stella Artois. It was hidden in the corner. So,
aged Stella Artois.
Not aged as badly as the Guinness that Eric shall be enjoying at the November show, which honestly may have been from the time of the dinosaurs. I'm not convinced it wasn't.
I'm all in.
This one, not nearly as bad. This one, not nearly as bad. This one is a more recent vintage, let's say.
I don't usually drink, but when I do, I drink 10-year-old Guinness.
I wish it was 10 years old. Look, I'm not completely convinced that wasn't a can of Guinness that George Washington himself wouldn't have drank out of. Just saying.
Is there a Guinness record for the person who's drank the oldest Guinness?
The oldest Guinness? That would be apropos. That would be quite apropos. Yeah, there might be. We're going to find out. We're going to learn together. It's going to be very exciting. All right, so real quick, first off the top, let me go over some comments from last week, because we did get some suggestions about alternate universe Eric, where the 86 Red Sox are victorious. We did get a few suggestions related to that, so thank you all for participating. So Mike Good was first. It was he put Clemens to Gedman. So that is the Clemens to, I believe, the catcher. I believe it was the catcher was Gedman. So that's solid battery right there. Hey, that's appropriate. Follows the Sanderson to Orr theme. I like where your head's at. Yes. I like it. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Indigenous rookie cards, name here. With a timestamp. Eric trying to coerce voters to vote for Mr. Rogers card by threatening to take everyone to hell with him. My response, truly shameless. Sadly on brand, but shameless nonetheless. And we'll find out in a few minutes if it worked, Brandon. Spoiler, it didn't. But we'll find out exactly the degree which it didn't work. Jay here says, Mike K looks like he's hulking with one of those Jersey muscles, pre-AI, crazy. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Rob here says, great stuff. Dan's Vintage Baseball says, Schwaldi to Stanley would be Eric's alternative universe name.
They're both pitchers. Calvin Schiraldi and Bob Stanley. They're both pitchers. So I don't know. I like the Clemens. Still work. The Clemens to Gedman makes more sense, but okay.
It's thematically appropriate, yes.
Yeah.
Hodges 1455 says, gave the video a like, enjoyed the listen, fellas. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mike Ham says, love me some Bone Thugs and Harmony. That was the comment.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, I mentioned Bone Thugs released a new song.
Oh, so you did mention it during the show. I was actually trying to, because we say so many things, Brandon, I wasn't sure where that reference popped in from the show.
I was just
all right. Ham was paying close attention. I'll give him credit for that one.
I was just going to file it under Ham's nuts.
Both could be true. Listen, Ham could be nuts and was paying close attention.
Yeah.
I'll give him points. I'll give him points for the attention to detail.
Fair.
Sports Card Dad here says, just starting the episode, but thought it noteworthy to announce breaking news that the SCD network is in talks to buy out 4 Collectors Network to properly change the name to 472 Collectors, as it should be. Hobby Hotline will be renamed to the Red Hot Chili Peppers Hobby Hotline.
Well, I like that.
Now, I did say to him, in response to this, the Red Hot Chili Peppers Hobby Hotline is not a terrible branding idea. No. Honestly, if more of these concepts made the main Sports Card Dad channel, you'd be more of a critical darling. I'm just saying. This should be on the main channel. Brandon, am I wrong?
No.
These takes should be on the main channel more often.
Yeah.
And I bet that he'd get more critical acclaim. Made it into our comment section, so nonetheless, we give it a thumbs up. So we
should do his videos from under the bridge.
Maybe. I like that. I like that. Dufects of Life here says, Hobby Hotline, the live call-in show where no one dials in. That's Dufex's comment. I'm just reading it.
That's
Sorry, Victor.
that's a comment.
Sorry, Victor. That was a comment. I'm just reading it. Rob here says, does Eric still claim to know Ray Borg? Question mark. Response. Eric claims to know many people. Janitors around the country have been warned of his harassment. Response to that, like an American version of Groundskeeper Willie. See? This is why I like our comment section, Brandon. See? This is where the engagement gets us. People, go to the comment sections and write a thing. We appreciate it.
I have made it clear over the years of who I've met, who I am friendly with, and who I am friends with. Okay? I do not claim that I am friends with every single athlete that I meet. I don't even claim that I'm friendly with every single athlete that I meet. So, it says we're 5% more mature on Mondays. I just want to state that. Now, on Fridays, you can say what you want, but on Mondays, I don't claim to be friends with everybody I meet. But there are a handful that I am friendly with. And we were just talking about one pre-show that I'm going to be seeing again soon. I'm friendly with him. Then there's ones I am actually friends with. Now, Ray Bork is somebody that is between friendly with and I have to remind him who I am when I see him.
So we're going to go with no.
I am not friends with Ray Bork.
Just say claim to know. If you have to remind him who you are, that's a no.
As soon as I give him I'm Eric from Sports World. Oh yeah, hey, how you doing? And then we have
Brandon, he's leaving out. I'm Eric from Sports World, who Marcel Dion has a restraining order against. Oh, that guy.
Yeah. So as soon as Ray remembers who I am, we have a very friendly.
That is quite the qualifier.
But there's other people that I don't have to remind them who I am. We're just friendly.
When you mention Eric from Sports World,
yeah,
is it because they all shared around a known clip of sorts of maybe potentially allegedly a game used item from one of what they would probably think is Boston Bruin superiority getting mishandled? Could that be what refreshes them?
Abuse, someone said.
That guy.
As much as you guys want that to get out to the world, I don't think it's quite traveled past a couple of hundred people so far. So
Brandon,
I don't think they're aware of it yet.
It sounds to me like Eric is challenging us to take the footage and spread it far and wide. I
think that's viral it.
Yeah, look, I'm just saying. We make some calls, and before you know it, it's like the NHL All-Star game. But first, let's play this clip. All people who've seen hockey. Hey, look at this idiot destroying a Bobby Orr hockey stick.
I did not destroy it. I tapped it on a shelf.
Uh-huh. Dan's Vintage Baseball says, holding back the Dead and Pizza course for Friday is a cruel and unusual punishment. The will of the content gods be done. And we did hold it back till Friday. Continuing the bit per positive feedback. And that's how it's going to be. Thank you all for the comments. Appreciate you.
I'm still limping.
Just saying. So let us get into now the silly card of the week, brought to us by our friends at AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. I'll be back with the Collector of the Scalps, Collector of the People, Steve. And I believe this week is going to be Upper Deck Clear Cut. It's going to be the product that we're going to be talking about this week. And then we've also got some cards we're going to be sharing that came in the shop. I think Blair, I don't think is going to be around, although he did threaten the possibility that he may join us on location from vacation. We'll see. We'll see if Blair decides to show. But otherwise, Steve and I will handle it, and we'll talk about Clear Cut. Obviously, if you're familiar with a lot of the previous years, it's one card per pack. It's basically a one-box product. And what you get out of it is a lot of kind of reprinted versions, reimagined cards, a lot of times on acetate, where it's a design and then it's an autograph. You basically get an autograph in every box / pack. It's interesting because you do get someone. I will say, though, and I'll talk about it more when I record it with Steve, is that one of the ones they did on there was they did a 97-98 Star Quest kind of remake of it. And I go, 97-98 Star Quest is a nice design. I actually like it. But it came from Collector's Choice, which is a low-end kids brand. And that's what we're using on a product that's like, I don't know, $80 or $100 a box. I forget what it goes for these days. But again, it's one card. So you're getting one card inside of basically a one touch is what you're getting out of that. So I'll showcase some of the examples and everything. There are some nice cards you can pull out of there, but it's one of those things where it's like, we're really going to go with collector's choice inserts as our autograph fodder on this. The design is nice, but I'm just saying, out of all the ones we could use, 97, 98 Star Quest, really? Okay. To each their own. Nonetheless, we do appreciate AMG for sponsoring the channel and the podcast. All right, we're going to get into silly card of the week here. We did get what I think might actually be a record turnout for this particular one. We had 58 votes. So if it's not a record turnout, it's got to be pretty darn close. Like it's probably right up there.
That's pretty good.
I think the highest I remember is like 50 or 52.
Yeah, so that's
so
great.
we were getting close. We're on the cusp of cracking 60. So I don't know if you guys want to try to crack 60 this week. It'd be really nice.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Let me show you here what we got. We had our three options, and alas, Mr. Rogers did not win with 36% of the popular vote.
You're all going to hell. I just want you all to know you were all going to hell.
And Brandon, I will say, I feel there was a disrespect of Take On Me. I feel like Take On Me deserved better. But nonetheless, 50% of the popular vote, Grandmama was victorious in Silly Card of the Week.
That's actually surprising. I didn't know that we would have that many Grandmama fans in the house, and high number of votes, 29 voted for Grandmama. So
right, so there's more Grandmama fans than there are for Mr. Rogers fans. I mean, come on.
Well, Eric, the problem is, Eric, once again, you're defeating the spirit. And Brandon, I've tried to explain this multiple times. Eric doesn't seem to understand what the spirit is of the silly card of the week. Mr. Rogers being on a card is not silly.
It's a hockey card with Mr. Rogers on it.
Eric, hockey isn't real. Eric, hockey isn't real. It's fictional.
Neither was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but we all liked it.
I don't know. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was a lot closer to being legit than hockey. Let's be honest.
I mean, the trolley.
You all
like the trolley.
You're all going to hell.
So yes, but all votes were counted. 58 votes this past week. We thank you all for participating for the only true democracy in this world. So that was last week's result. Now this week we got some brand new examples here. We're going to include some and we're going to showcase them off. So Brandon, I believe the first one is going to be yours. So let me show off your one. And there will be a community post with all of these to be able to vote on your favorite this week. So let's start off with this one here. And Brandon, you wanted to explain a little bit of what's going on in this one?
As you just said, this whole segment is about silly, funny, obnoxious, ridiculous sports cards.
Yeah.
This showcases two minor league baseball players getting their photo taken. Obviously, it says up there at the top, Fred Costello, who apparently doesn't plan on making postseason or anything because he's trying to get his golf game in, and using his teammate's mouth as a tee. Now, I seen the Jones photo at the bottom, so I was worried about disqualification of technicalities. However, I went and confirmed this is indeed a 1993 Jones photo, Tucson Toros, no number, Fred Costello, as per trading card database. So, confirmation of it being acceptable as a card, and how much more ridiculous, silly, funny, etc. can you get?
Now, I will say one critique I have here is that I would definitely be critiquing his form. Eric, I don't know if you played much golf, but this is
he doesn't have the knees bent.
The alignment's wrong. Like he's way too upright. Like Eric, I'm feeling this right here is begging for a hook or a slice. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. This is terrible posture. Do not follow this. This is very poor for a golf game.
Props to the stirrups, though. You can tell this is older. They don't do the stirrups anymore.
Classic. All right, our second selection, once again, going to the Pro Set Platinum well. Here it is once again, Aroc. So we've got a young player for the Islanders. What's the problem, Eric?
Yeah, it's the Karate Kid. And he is
who played for the Islanders. Few people know
he is going to use the crane technique to defeat the other teams in the league. So
Eric, we all know the Karate Kid was Daniel-san,
That's
not
right.
Ralph
Mhm.
Macchio. It
Yeah,
was
I don't know who this
Daniel-san.
poser is.
And then, when asked, uh, who did you win the hockey game for? He's going to say he did it for Johnny, even though he is Johnny.
Are we completely going to ignore his career captaining the New York Islanders? Because I'm rather fond of that career. I think he did great.
Number one, by the way. He's the. I don't recall there being a captain wearing the number one, but who knows?
It's the New York Islanders, Eric. Were any of us paying close enough attention to be able to confirm that for sure?
Not after Mike Bossy retired. Really, no one paid attention since then.
Yeah, I'm not completely convinced he didn't play for the Islanders. Also,
Yeah.
bonus points. Great hair.
Yeah.
Very solid hair.
I just love how serious he's taking the photo shoot. Like he is definitely. I can't think of. I wanted to say the name. I can't think of it. What was the special look that Ben Stiller uses?
Oh, the in Zoolander.
Yeah, I can't.
Blue Steel.
Yeah, thank you. It was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't get it. Yeah, he's got Blue Steel going on.
Hey, listen, Blue Steel couldn't have hurt. Early '90s Islanders, they could have used some Blue Steel.
I got questions because you could tell they just threw the jersey over his shirt.
Yeah,
and he's still got his jeans on. It looks as though potentially skates. I can't tell, but near the logo, the platinum logo, kind of looks like skates. He's wearing the gloves, but why in the hell didn't they give him a stick?
Because he's at the beach sitting on a rock.
I actually think they didn't give him a stick because someone broke it doing a social media post. I won't say who.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to put the gloves on.
You're right.
The really scary part is he managed to do it in a social media post before social media was really invented.
Yeah.
1991, you wouldn't think so. He goes, I got to do this for the gram. What is the gram? What are you talking about?
That was even before AOL. He couldn't
That's
have
what I'm saying.
Messaged it.
It was more confusing. Just imagine. But at least he was practicing early. Yeah. So that's Ralph Macchio from Pro Set Platinum. And last and certainly not least, third option here for your community post this week. Rusty Stubb of the New York Mets with a completely not airbrushed helmet. Completely not airbrushed helmet. Wearing an Expos jersey. The best part is you went to the trouble, Eric, of airbrushing the helmet, but you can literally see the logo of the Expos on the jersey.
Yeah, that's bad.
Well,
and by the way, also bonus points. So you see how it's striped for the Expos, but you can see here they actually started to airbrush part of the stripes out, and then they gave up.
Yeah,
they gave up almost immediately.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't even airbrush the whole helmet, did they? They just did the logo.
Brandon, this is what I'm trying to get at.
What the hell's around his neck?
I think it's almost like a hoodie. No, I think it's like a hoodie.
Maybe.
So for the record, because again, this is a Montreal Expos, picture. He's in Expos garb, so it might have been in Montreal, and it would be chillier in Montreal. But look, here's the point, Eric. The point is this right here. The hashtag for this one is "Thou shalt not effort." You started the airbrushing and then gave up immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. This is the opposite of last week. Last week they were committed, Eric. Last week they committed to the bit. This week they gave up.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yep. That's the opposite side of the airbrushing coin. That was all being a community post, and you can make your selection. I thought that would be a fun one. I thought that would be a good one to kind of go the opposite direction of last week's show. Yep. So there you go. You can always go. If anybody wants to collect them, that is an opportunity. That is an option. All right, so let me see here if I can close that. Perfect. All right. So that is the silly card of the week. We're going to have that. And now we're going to get into a couple of pickups here. So I know Eric usually has a couple, but I'll share a few with you folks. And then we'll get into a couple of our topics here. Okay, so let me go in here. Let me grab this. Okay, I'm going to save that for a minute. So I'll go through a couple of these quick. This week was actually a fair bit of football. We've got a little bit of that going on. But I did find some other stuff. Okay, let me start off with this one. I'll start off with a hockey card. I'll kind of alternate. I'll do a couple of hockey cards, and then I'll do a couple of footballs.
Great.
So we'll do that. All right, let's start off with this one. So I'll share and I'll explain. So this, as far as pickups are concerned, we're going to start with this one right here. All right. So this right here is from one of the more recent, basically in the 2010s, they brought back Metal Universe into hockey. And as part of that, they brought back the PMGs. So you got your red PMGs. Now, because it was a later year, you also had the blue PMGs, in addition to the green PMGs, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is a Jamie Benn. So we got a nice Renaissance, blue PMG, number to 50. And I got this literally the other day on eBay for the princely sum, Eric, of about 20 Canadian dollars.
Oh, that's like, what, 34 cents?
Beautiful, beautiful. One small, tiny problem, Brandon. Tiny problem, tiny issue. Even though it's out of 50, I went through the Zfolio and I started going through it. I was like, all right, I'm going to put it here.
Have it.
As I totally have it. Yeah. I 100% have a copy. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. I hate when that happens.
See, the thing is, being that it's a PMG out of 50, I just assumed that I was like, oh, surely I don't already have one of those. No, I totally have one of those. Yeah. 100% have one. Yeah.
Yep. So that's going to be selling that for a pricely sum of $21.
I'll just keep it at $20, Eric. I'll just keep it. But it's the principle of the thing. It's like it's annoying. It's like, oh, really? Yeah. But nonetheless, it's a nice card. So right now, this is the image from the sale. If I get it, when I get it in hand, I'll do the mail day and I'll show the two side by side. So we'll see. Maybe one of them is slightly nicer than the other one. We'll see. All right, other one here. Trilogy. So this is, I think, 2008 Trilogy Medano autograph. So add another one to that. Love the acetate on there. On card auto, which is nice. We got the acetate. I wasn't too crazy. This one wasn't too bad, but always happy to add, again, playing days and autograph. I like it. So you put those two things together, we're solid. And we'll finish off with a couple of footballs. Got yourself some gold Prizm Chosen Rosen. Boom. Literally won that earlier today, Eric. Amazing. Now, wow, chef's kiss.
A handful of years ago, this would have been worth how much?
Oh, hundreds. Maybe $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. And
now it's worth
$15 US.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
Indeed. And last but certainly not least, how about a Not Swell Fella PC edition? Autographs as well. This one, what I liked about this one, and I'll show the back of it, it's numbered to 10. This is actually from the Hawaii trade show. So back in the day, the manufacturers used to attend a trade show in Hawaii. Beckett actually hosted these trade shows back in the day. And as you can see on the back, it shows a little better on the back here. All the manufacturers were there back then. You got Donruss, Playoff, Leaf, and Score. And these were cars that were included as part of that trade show. These are hand numbered. So you've got that all included in there. It's part of Hawaii, the 2000s. So it is an on-card auto there, but it is basically, and they also had multiplayer autos as well. I just like the fact that it's from a trade show, a hand numbered card from the trade show already in there. And I was like, nice.
That's unique.
Yeah. I like right now when I'm looking for stuff for those collections, I'm looking for stuff that's a little bit off the beaten path. I've got a lot of Brett Favre autographs already. But that one from the trade show is a little bit different. It's not just the standard variety one. An on-card auto is always nice. And the design on it is pretty solid for what it is. I think it's going to look pretty good in hand. So I was just looking for stuff like that. And I thought that'd be kind of a fun one. So there we go. That's my pickups for this week. Eric, you want to share any pickups?
Yeah, I have a couple. These are pretty interesting here. So the Boston Bruins put out their own team set, a handful of years ago. And these are like the samples. And you can see, on the front and the back of these Reggie Lumlin cards, this is what the cards ended up looking like. But you can see like how there's markings all over them here. And so somebody who had a bunch of these for all the different players and stuff knows I'm a Reggie fan and just gave them to me for free. So these are pretty unique. They're not out there for everybody to grab. So yeah, they were like tests and to help make the set. So I don't know how he got a hold of them, but I thought that was pretty interesting. A true Canadian legend in Boston Bruin, one of Boston's greatest coaches. Brought him to 2 Stanley Cup finals. Unfortunately, lost both because he can't count on how many men to put on the ice. But an in-person Don Cherry auto came into the shop. I was able to get that before it went out for sale. I don't have. I don't honestly. I don't remember if I have any Don Cherry autographs. So it came in and I went, all right, I'll grab that. And then this one I got yesterday, because I don't have any of his, is a Big Z Zdeno Chara 8x10 auto. A collection came in, a huge collection, but unfortunately, it just it wasn't for us because we had so much of this stuff, and a lot of this stuff was bought from us years ago. Someone passed away, and the family, was trying to move it, and we're like, yeah, that came from us, and we got 40 more of them out back. So we said no to the collection. But when we were going through it, I saw the Chara and I said, okay, well, for me, not for the shop, I'll give you $20 for it. And the guy jumped at it. So $20, I got a, Big Z auto. He's going into the Hall of Fame this year. And to get an autograph from him, the last time he did a autograph signing in this area, it was $99 for the auto, $99 for a inscription, and $99 to have your picture taken with him. So it's $100 autograph. So I got it for $20. So I'll add it to the collection.
Look at you being all fancy. So there you go. That's the pickup for this week. I like it. So we'll share some more with you next week. We could have a little bit of fun. There's some stuff that should be coming in that should be enjoyable. Now, I'm going to transition over to first of a couple of topics. First one is actually going to be a little bit of a mini topic because I want to actually lead it into something else. But one of the things we've noticed, and we talked about this, we talked about it earlier. I used the analogy before we hit record, was the whole, Skeens, Skeens. I was about to, yeah, Skeens. The MLB debut patch autograph. And that was purchased by Dick's. So that's an instant. So I'm going to call that what we're going to call an institutional purchase. When a business is actually purchasing it as part of marketing or whatever, that's an institutional purchase, which is completely fine. Nothing. I don't have any issue with that. But where I kind of look at it is I kind of put it into its own category, because at that point it's a business doing it as part of a marketing thing, which is fine. But then it's like, okay. It's not like the days. I've seen a couple of videos that have tried to start comparing 2021 to right now, and kind of because there's been a run up on some high end stuff. And the thing is that there was a run up on high end stuff, but right now a lot of the high end stuff is being bought by, overtly anyway, it's being bought by institutional purchasers, institutional investors, institutional businesses, so to speak, kind of in that category. So that is an example of one of those where a corporation is literally buying it. Second example is actually one that ended this past weekend, and that was the Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant Dual Logoman. So that one has already got a couple of videos out. So quickly, I'll share the post here. I'll put it in the description there. But this one, so first the purchase happened, and it was 12.9 million and change. So a little over 12.9 million was the sale. This is the car, and I can pull up some more images of it and whatever. But first, we learned that the sale was completed for this, nearly $13 million purchase. And usually that's Reggie Lemon money for Eric. So this is serious money. But then the people who actually were part of that sale, or the ones who bought it, announced themselves. Kevin O'Leary, Paul Warshaw, who I'm not as familiar with. Kevin O'Leary I am familiar with. And then Shine, the infamous Shine 150, who is kind of a mysterious, we were talking about it before the recording. He's kind of let's say, Brandon, I think this is safe. We can say a mysterious hobby figure. Someone who's been around, but at the same time, there's a lot of questions. There's more questions than answers for this individual. But they've been around. The point is they have been around. So that name has been thrown around quite a number of times. But you got these three people. Again, Paul Warshaw I'm not as familiar with. Kevin O'Leary I am familiar with. And then Shine obviously has been around the block on some high-profile sales and in situations. So regardless, though, these are the three people, the consortium of people that conspired to purchase it. But then immediately as the purchase was made and everything, and they announced themselves as the people who bought it, they also announced that they're going to have what's called secure collectibles. So it's a private selling and sourcing platform for high-end sports. So basically it's a business opportunity. Again, institutional. That's why I'm making a distinction. I'm saying this is institutional purchase for purposes of marketing / adding it to your portfolio / whatever else you want to add into whatever. That's not terribly interesting to me. For the most part, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And look, at that point, I don't care. You could have paid 13 million, you could have paid 130 million. That's your money, it's your business, whatever. But I almost kind of separate it out from like a lot of regular sports card sales because it's really in its own category at that point. It's a separate thing. It's not like it was individual collectors. And the other issue kind of with this, Eric, is that once you get past a certain price point, it's not like you were denying some diehard collector. Oh my, some Michael Jordan collector fan can't get his car. Like, how many real collectors, normal collectors, have a couple of $1 million? What would have been the sale price if institutional money didn't get involved? Only 3 or 4 million? Like, what are we talking about, really? Like, it's not like your rank and file, blue collar person was denied the chance to purchase this card.
Only the wealthy can play in this pool, and that's what happened. So,
Yes. So really, I don't feel bad for anybody in that one. Look, you spend whatever your money is, it's your money, and you can then buy it for whatever purpose you see fit. I'm fine with that. That's perfectly fine. But again, that makes it not terrible. It's noteworthy because it was such a big number, but not terribly interesting beyond that for me. Just it's kind of a high level thing. It's worthwhile discuss. Any thoughts you guys have on that in general? Like, I want to actually transition it over to something else, but if there's any thought you have on this one, by all means, please.
One thing that I want to mention on it is that card is an example. So obviously it's an exquisite. We trust the game used Logoman there. Obviously you have Kobe's auto, Jordan's auto, Jordan, UD exclusive athlete. It shows where it kind of makes you think, what would the space look like if Upper Deck has had, like if they continued to have opportunities to put products like that out with Jordan, it's still licensed, where would we be?
Do you want me to make the joke?
Well, about
so
3
what would
years
happen?
behind. I know what the joke is.
That's first. That's first. Yes. Kobe would have still been alive when the card would have been initially issued and it'd be getting released right now. That's the first joke. The second joke is that the card would be released with quality assurance issues. The logo man would actually be an NHL shield. And it would be an NHL shield by Hal fucking Gill. So, which of course would increase the value on Eric. It would honestly increase the value. It would make it more valuable. As far as I'm concerned, it would just take it to another level. It'd be 130 million at that point, minimum. But yes, that's basically what I think. I understand your question, Brandon, but it would just make me laugh. And I think Ham did a video where he was talking about everybody's obsessed with this fantasy of what if Upper Deck was involved in these other sports. What would happen is there'd be multiple licensors. They'd all make too many sets. You would complain even more about the sheer number of products out there. And by the way, the quality control that you're complaining about right now that we have here would actually be the same, except you get to see it in basketball and baseball too. So, and maybe it would be even worse.
My point was more on the Jordan aspect of it because he's always been locked in.
Yeah, with the exclusive.
Well, not always, but
yeah, he's an exclusive
for most of his career and everything. He's been locked in as an Upper Deck athlete. And Upper Deck's tried little things here and there, putting out some of these products and adding autos. They're normally sticker, unfortunately. But like the one that stands out to me is when they made that Metal Universe Champions, and they had Jordan wearing, because they were trying to make him as close to playing basketball as possible, and he was in a damn Scottie Pippen like charity game jersey, and I'm like, wow, and it was right around the time when them two were having their spat beef, whatever, and it just was weird. So my thing was, if Upper Deck was still putting out high-end product like that, and they still could license the Jordan stuff, where would we be in terms of maybe basketball? Because there's obviously a demand and market there, and the exquisite stuff. Anytime exquisite comes up, that older exquisite basketball, especially the logo man stuff, it doesn't have to be Jordan or Kobe. It could be Grandma Law. It's going to go for a decent amount of money. So. It shows where they were, and they still put out okay stuff with hockey, but
I actually just think, I'll be honest, like being serious, I actually just think it would devalue. I think if anything else, we'd devalue it
because it would be still available. Yeah,
Yeah, it would be
Right.
there'd be more every year.
That's
And
kind of
again, those other things do play into it. I genuinely believe that there is a romanticism about the earlier eras of what Upper Deck was doing back then, and a romanticism about the 90s and the products that they were producing out there. And I keep having to remind, and it is kind of important to note this, and this is something key, Eric, that I think we keep forgetting. Um, all the innovation, all that stuff that happened in the 90s, which it did. I was there and I enjoyed it and it was really good and everything. Most of the companies that were involved in that all went out of business. Almost all of them went out of business, meaning it was not actually a good business model. The cards were cool, the competition was a great concept and everything. None of them made enough money to survive. They're dead. The ones that are still alive are the ones that are still alive. And you when you complain about the quality control and all the pricing and everything, which is completely fine. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I repeat, they're the ones that are still alive. The other ones are dead, 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 dead. The reason why Upper Deck owns all the Skybox brand because Skybox is dead. They
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 went
own
out,
the
I believe,
brands.
with the Fleer stuff in the 90s, or
Correct.
not late 90s, I believe.
And it was actually multiple combinations of things. And by the way, if you paid attention, in that Brett Favre card that I showed, because it was from the trade show, it had multiple logos on the back. If you paid attention, the companies that those logos represented, those companies are all dead.
Yeah,
Leaf exists as a non-licensed, as an unlicensed product that was bought by Brian Gray because Leaf was dead. Are you seeing the theme here, Eric?
Yeah, that's not
Score and Don Russer with Panini.
Yeah,
Leaf had awesome cards.
they did, but they're dead. The
They're
point is
dead.
Brian Gray was able to buy them because they didn't exist anymore.
Crown Royal, dead.
Don Russ exists under
Don
the Panini banner because Panini bought the rights. And
Yeah.
Skybox exists under the Upper Deck banner because Upper Deck
Dead.
bought the rights.
Pro
So
Set
all those
died.
companies are dead.
Leaf bought the rights.
Yes. So they're all brand. When you see those brands, they exist only in name under the company that bought the scraps of what was left. So that's the reason they can use the branding and everything. So I talk about my AEW and everything. They released the Metal Universe product recently. I'm actually a big fan. I think they did a really good job with it. Do you know what's in that? Metal Universe is a Skybox brand. They've got Autographics, which was a Skybox insert. Precious Metal Gems. That was it. Upper Deck didn't invent Precious Metal Gems. Autograph isn't the Upper Deck isn't the one who came up with Autographics. Brandon, none of that was originally Upper Deck's. Metal Universe wasn't Upper Deck's, but it is now because they own the rights to all the branding. Again, everybody has this fantasy in their heads that, oh well, if you introduce all that competition with the amount it's going to cost for the licensing fee, because the leagues are going to demand it, that's what they would do, then you're going to have 25, 30 products from 3 or 4 manufacturers, and then all of a sudden you got 100 products flooding the market, and most of them, to be blunt, are going to be garbage. They're going to be overpriced garbage, and you're going to have 3 times as many products to complain about that are overpriced garbage as opposed to today. And the products will not get better.
I just think it would be interesting if we, like I said, in general of that specific example, if we had more Jordan licensed stuff, what would his market truly be at today? Everybody talks to him, the global icon, the brand, the Nike, the Jumpman, all that. And then obviously in the card space, but he has this element to him that really other players don't. And that is the limitation on the release because of the licensing stuff. So it would be interesting to see if there were still licensed Jordan stuff produced, what the market would look like in today's space. So,
well, I would say 2 things. One of 2 things. Either the market would be flooded, and the prices would go down, and more people than right now would have Jordan autos, and or Michael Jordan himself would end his relationship with card companies. Right now, Upper Deck barely asks him to do anything because they can't. If he was signed with, who has the basketball license right now, Topps or something? I mean,
Panini.
Well, it's going to be Topps in a couple of months officially.
So we'll say Topps, right? In a couple of months, they're going to be asking him to just plow through and just sign till his hand falls off.
Mhm.
Michael Jordan is not interested in doing that. Michael
Well,
Jordan,
that's what I was about to say, Eric. It's like, no, you can ask. Michael Jordan will be like,
Michael
no.
Jordan is not interested. Michael Jordan is worth billions of dollars. Signing his name for money means nothing to him. He has no interest in you and spending time with you and sitting down and getting a hand cramp writing his name a couple hundred times. Upper Deck says, "Hey, next year, can you, we're thinking about doing this insert for this product. Can you write your name 20 times?" Yeah, okay. That's it.
Yeah. He's willing
So,
to do it. He's willing to do it on a very limited basis, and that's
yeah,
Upper Deck has maintained a good relationship with him because they don't press him to do too much. And
yeah,
he's basically what you're getting is what he's willing to do.
yeah.
That
He has
no more.
no interest in this.
Yes.
He doesn't need to. Now, you know, we work with a lot of athletes, and there are some that will come and need the money. Okay, they played in yesteryear, or they weren't in whatever league they were in for very long, or they ran on hot, end up with some hard times. They will sign and take whatever it is we offer them. There's other people. I mean, I'm wearing the guy's shirt, right? He signed an 8 point something $1 million contract last year.
Mhm. Right.
He doesn't need to make extra money signing his name. Now he does. We have a business relationship with him because he wants to be out there and he wants to be within the public and he wants to do signings, but he signed an $8.5 million contract. He doesn't need to sign his name ever again, except for on his next contract. So obviously, in a much, much bigger universe, Jordan's the same way. He doesn't need to ever sign his name again.
I understand that. My point was, even at a minuscule level, over the past, I don't even remember when the last Jordan licensed card was released. It's been years.
Yeah. It would have been
Okay.
whatever the last year was for Upper Deck being a licensee for basketball.
Yeah.
Basically, when it went exclusive to Panini, I think.
I want to say probably 15 plus years
Yeah.
since we've had anything.
Something like
Even
that.
on a minuscule level, I just wonder what the space would look like if there was still continued licensed Jordan stuff being released. Because I do think this card here, and I can't speak on the guys that bought it, but what stood out to me was the gold logo man for Jordan.
Mhm.
I don't remember if that was 75th or 50th
Yeah.
anniversary.
It was a very specific year where they did it the 1 year, and that
I
was
think it was the
basically the year that
50th
came out.
anniversary because if I remember the logo, it had like the big 50 and on. So I think it was the 50th anniversary logo man. That stood out to me. And then obviously, him paired with Kobe there and it being an exquisite product. Outside of that, I don't know what exactly drew the demand up to that point outside of, as Carlos mentioned, investor groupings
Yeah.
throwing money
Exactly.
around.
Yeah.
So my point wasn't, to have Jordan on a regular Jeremy Swayman type scale signing his name to death. It was, what would things look like? And I'm not even just talking about this card. There's many of them that I think it would have shifted the landscape, but people know we're not getting that stuff. We haven't gotten that stuff in many years. And so it has, I think, pushed his stuff to another level because we can't get it outside of the prices that they go for. So,
And I just want to make sure people don't think I'm a bigger idiot than they already do. The 8.5 million is per year. He signed a $66 million contract.
Yeah.
So
I think though the key is that that's a big thing with a lot of athletes now because there is so much money in it. And look, like I said, I've been very clear on this in terms of when it comes to this particular topic, and do want to shift over to another one here because there is a segue from here that I want to get to. But the thing is, I'm very much pro athlete on this. I understand it from their perspective. By that I mean that no, if I had a contract, if my job is to play a sport and I am playing the sport and I am doing my job, look, I'll acquiesce to a certain degree, but for the most part, especially when we're talking about card manufacturers, I don't have to sign shit for you. I don't have to agree to anything. Like, no. And you know what, Eric? If I have other things to do, I'm a busy man. I'm doing my job, my actual primary job, and I have done my job. I am done for the day. I am punching out. Good day, sir.
I think there is some mandatory stuff involving
With the Players Association, there are things they can ask for certain things, but there are limitations to it. My point is, they're not required to sit. Basically, the manufacturer can be like, "Here's 5,000 stickers," and the guy can be like, "Fuck no." He doesn't have to sign that for them. Now, the Players Association, especially in like a Fanatic situation, where the Players Association also has an ownership in the thing, there's plenty of incentive for them to be like, "Hey, man, these sets now are also coming back into our coffers." Players, meaning. So there could be some pressure there. Hey, sign some of this stuff because we're getting everybody to do it. And that way everybody gets a bigger piece of this. So there is that element that you can add to it. But I'm just saying, as the player on the individual level, just in general terms, they can be like, look, if I have to sign some stuff, I'll sign some stuff. But if you put 10,000 stickers in front of me, I'm going to slide them right back to the other end of the table.
Yeah. I mean, you'll never, ever get Jordan to do that. Ever. Ever.
Yeah. And there are other players that fall under that, not necessarily at his level, but there are other players who will simply push back and be like, yeah, absolutely not. That's no. Or you will get the half-ass version. Oh yeah, sure.
Well,
like, what's the fastest way we can get this done?
Yeah.
I think to a point, Jordan also understands doing the minimal level of it keeps his, like when Upper Deck comes and says, "Hey, Mike, can you sign these for us?" He knows the value of him signing them, and he can be like, "Well, what do you got in it for me?" I don't know what their partner deal or whatever is, but a lot of these athletes do know it's either do they want to get greedy or do they want to keep their stuff relevant, I guess you could say. If you can go into a signing at Sports World, if they don't have a flood of shit out on the market, they can charge you guys more because they know the demand for their stuff and the availability of it. Yeah. They can ask you for more money. So there are
in turn, it also allows Sports World to. Like, it's a mutually, it can be, if you're able to control the amount of autographs that come out from you, it actually allows everybody across the board, because you can legitimately say, hey, the supply is not limitless. We don't have 1 trillion of them out there. And they don't take every contract signing out of the sun. They'll do ones here and there. The more you're able to space them out, and like, if you have the luxury, if you can afford to do that, you actually can command more for the autograph, especially if people are interested. You can command more for the autograph because you're not just handing them out like candy. So it actually makes the people that are then going to go to it. So you know what? Maybe they will travel from the other end of the state to go to Sports World because this person doesn't sign all the time.
Right.
So they'll go out of their way. And then Sports World in turn can charge more for it because, hey, this person's a tough get. They don't sign every weekend at every show in creation. They don't have a booth Pete Rose at the end of his life was doing the Johnny Bauer thing. Like, he was signing everything.
Right.
So it devalued it. And I've talked about it before. We were joking about it.
Do you know who one of our biggest signers ever was? Jerry Mathers. Leave It to Beaver. We were causing a traffic jam on Route 1. People trying to get into the plaza. The line went around the building. I mean, he's this legendary, TV actor on a legendary show that doesn't, who's older and isn't doing a ton of, tons of stuff. Man, it was one of the biggest signings we ever had.
Yeah. And if you can, like I said, there is an advantage a little bit if you can limit it a little bit, because then it's not all over the place. The reason I mentioned the Pete Rose one is that buddy of mine and I, when we were at Expo a couple of years back, Leaf did a Pete Rose box set. And the thing with the Pete Rose box set was every single box set, and the box sets, by the way, were available. They were like in these retail packaging, this little box that had Pete Rose cards inside. Every single box had a Pete Rose autograph in them. All of them. They were sitting on the show floor at the dealer table, and you could buy these Pete Rose box set with a guaranteed Pete Rose autograph in every single box. and they were $25 Canadian. You could have as many as you wanted. Every single one had a Pete Rose autograph. There was, because the entire base set, they put stickers on them. Pete signed probably 10,000 stickers or whatever it was, or more. So yeah, so literally they were being handed out like candy. And Pete Rose would sign every weekend in Vegas, and he would sign at every convention that would have him. So it's like there was no shortage of Pete Rose autographs.
You may have heard about it.
Allegedly. The bottom
Small.
line is, what that does though is that means your autograph then in turn goes down in value because it's available in quantity. You can literally get in volume. Well then, yeah, you shouldn't be paying too much for it because frankly, the demand cannot possibly outstrip the supply. We have so much supply. There's no way.
Like I said earlier, this guy here doesn't do a lot of signings. And when he does, he charges a lot of money. And a lot of people can't afford $100 for an autograph. That's a lot of money. So therefore, there's not a ton in comparison, mind you now, all right? In comparison, there's not a ton of Zdeno Chara autos out there in comparison to, Bobby Orr. There's definitely less Zdeno Chara autos than Bobby Orr autos, and less than Wayne Gretzky autos.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, what I'm getting out of this is that per Sanderson to Orr, Zdeno Chara is better than Bobby Orr. Because not only...
And Gretzky.
Not only is Zdeno Chara less whoring himself out for autographs. Not only that, but I happen to know for a fact Eric has not destroyed a single Zdeno Chara game used stick. Whereas the Bobby Orr one, he didn't care. He just decided, you know what? I don't care about this. Destroy it. Just saying.
Not destroy it.
Anyway, all right. So I'm going to segue out of this one. All right, real quick. I wanted to talk about it. So we talked about a nearly $13 million sale. That's one thing. I want to talk about a sale that was actually sold to a collector, but it created kind of an interesting thing. But this is going to lead into a bit of a deep dive. So first, let me start off with this and I'll talk about this. This one came across like a couple of weeks ago, but I thought it was very interesting. I didn't get a chance to talk about it at the time, but I want to talk about it now because I think we can have some fun with this one. A couple of weeks ago in I think it was Fanatics Collect auction, or there was some other auction that they did it in. There was a 2012 Panini Prizm J. Cutler Black Finite 1/1 card that was sold. And it sold for $12,107. So, J. Cutler, 2012, Prizm, Black Finite 1/1. Sold for $12,107. And that was more than double the previous record for a J. Cutler card. Now, a couple of things about this one. This is very, very interesting here. Because there is a couple of things about it that, came out of it, but then also that I want to talk about this is where the deep dive is going to come in. So I want to quickly show you on the screen. I'll include a link in the description to this post from Fanatics Collect. Very interesting. So here it is. Here's the card in question. $12,107, 44 bids. So people did bid on it. It was quite a number of bids. Negative points for putting Super Factor in there because that has nothing to do with this card because that is a Prizm card. Super Factors don't exist for Prizm, but whatever. Do what you got to do, I guess. So anyway, $12,000 for J. Cutler card. Now, I want to have a little bit of fun with this. I was telling the guys that I did some digging. I did some research.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of the pushback that they got for it was because a lot of people are going like, oh my God, $12,000 for J. Cutler. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that the collector, and it was a collector who purchased this card, is, to his own admission, misfortune, a Chicago Bears fan. He's actually known in Instagram as Pac Nicholson. And he actually co-hosts a football card podcast with Brett McGrath of Stacking Slabs. So he's built a lot of these different podcast things that he's doing. He actually co-hosts a football card podcast. So in one of the podcast episodes, and I'll see if I can pull up a link to it so you guys can listen to it on your own time. He did actually explain the thought process behind it. And what it came down to is to him, as a Chicago Bears fan, again, remember the Chicago Bears history with quarterbacks? Not the greatest.
No.
So it's arguable that Jay Cutler is probably right at the very top of Chicago Bears quarterbacks, even though he didn't win a Super Bowl, because there just isn't a lot to go by. There just isn't a lot there. It's him or Jim McMahon. That's about, there's not a lot that you can go after.
His name? There was another one who, when the Bears went to the Super Bowl again. Who was
Grossman?
Yeah, Grossman. Grossman brought them to the Super Bowl.
He did, but arguably, statistically, Jay Cutler does have better statistics than Rex Grossman. Let's just say that. My point is the Chicago Bears quarterback history is not the greatest. Let's say it's not the greatest. I don't think that's a controversial statement. So as far as, Chicago Bears fan, unless you go to the heyday, like the, pre Super Bowl era, or you go to Jim McMahon in 85, like you don't have a lot to go by. Like you got to basically take what you can get because Jay Cutler arguably is probably one of the best Bears quarterbacks in this person's lifetime. For better or worse, he's about the best. Now, there's a couple of factors that play into this, and I'll get to those in a second. But what I thought was interesting is the $12,000 obviously elicited a lot of response. And a lot of response was $12,000 for Jay Cutler card. Say what? Outrageous, scandalous. What is this? So obviously. Now, there came the standard. There were people that came out in defense, including the card ladder guys and everything. And the first line of defense is, but look at how much money people are spending on these other stupid things. So what they did is they pulled an Eric. They said, but look at how much money people are spending for a V-Friends card and all this. Oh, Brandon, you know what my counter to all that is, though? You telling me there is someone spending dumb money on something dumb doesn't make the first dumb thing less dumb.
That is true.
So, like, that does not get you out of it. However, there are some mitigating factors, Brandon. I can accept there's some mitigating factors. And I promise I will get to those. But before I can, Brandon, may I now unveil my first exhibit? I'd like to share something now with the class so that we can all discuss. So I thought to myself, this is Eric. This is why I went into the research. I went into the rabbit hole. I went there. So we're going to do it. I violated my own thou shall not effort because now the people need this. We got to do it. Allow me to give you Jay Cutler versus Joe Flacco.
Oh, boy.
Wacko for Flacco. We're going to have a little discussion here. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see better. There's our boy. Now, head-to-head regular season, Joe Flacco is 1-0. Crushes this fool. Destroys him. More games. We got better overall record. Completion percentage for Jay Cutler slightly. More passing yards for Flacco. More passing yards per game. 30 more passing touchdowns for Wacko for Flacco. Very impressive. Jay Cutler does have a slight edge in interceptions, but Joe Flacco does have 30 more touchdowns. And the interception difference, 2. Not negligible. We got rushing attempts. We got a couple different categories. And then, of course, we got a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP for Wacko for Flacco, but Jay Cutler does have a Pro Bowl. Okay. So, there's different little back and forth, overall, like, listen, we understand. And we are a pro Wacko for Flacco podcast. Let's be clear about that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be clear. But here's the thing. We're talking about a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, Brandon, this is where it gets fun. The point here is not, like Eric, to besmirch the good name of Marcel Dion. Like, in Fridays, that's happened. It's unfortunate.
No,
but that's not the point.
The
point, though, is that I'm talking about a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, also, we talked about the Chicago Bears and the lack of depth at the quarterback position. Well, if we take the Baltimore Ravens, I can't count the Cleveland Browns, the ye old Cleveland Browns, because technically they had to leave the legacy behind. So Otto Graham is out. We can't count any of those guys. We have to start from the beginning of the Baltimore Ravens, which means if I'm looking for Super Bowl winning quarterbacks to make this as even as possible, then I'm basically left with Trent Dilfer. All right. Advantage Wacko for Flacco. Advantage Wacko for Flacco once again. All right. So now Lamar has multiple MVPs. In the grand scheme of things, when it's all said and done, he will be the most rewarded and, have the most in his trophy case. I think that's fair. And already he's got some trophies already to his name. If he does win a Super Bowl, well, then advantage Lamar. But for the moment, with the Super Bowl, from the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, Brandon, Wacko for Flacco is standing in the seat, in the throne, king of the mountain. Is that fair?
100%.
All right.
As a Ravens fan.
So far, so good. So far, so good? All right. I'd like to share with you guys some things. So I went down the rabbit hole of hitting the eBays. Remember, we paid $12,000 for that Jay Cutler Black Prizm 1-of-1.
That's crazy.
What can we get for $12,000? So I decided to go and, hey, what can I get for $12,000 for Wacko for Flacco? Seems like a reasonable thing to do. Eric, I'm going shopping.
Oh.
And you know what? I'm not only going shopping, I'm not even going to do a best offers. I'm just going to hit buy it nows. Let's see what we can do. I just thought it'd be kind of fun. So let's go down a path here. Let's have a journey.
Okay.
Let's start here. 2009 Topps Unique Joe Flacco 1-of-1 logo patch autograph. So we got that on there. This is a authentic game worn NFL equipment patch. Okay. So we got ourselves a game worn patch with the autograph on there. Very solid.
Could be a rookie year patch, second year card.
Right here. $3,500 or best offer. But Eric, I'm a baller. I'm not even making an offer. I'm straight up buying it.
All right.
But here's the thing, Eric. If I do that, I still got $11,500 left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done. I'm not done shopping. Eric, we're doing it. We're using Eric's Black American Express. We're buying all the things, Brandon. We're buying all the things.
All the
We
things?
can do better. We can do more.
Okay.
So right there, listen, Shield 1 of 1, like, look, that's pretty good. And by the way, game used. That's strong. That's solid. We're off to a good start, I think. So let's keep going. And you guys will get my point by the end of it. I'm having some fun with it, but let's have a little fun. Again, I'm trying to put together a sweet PC of Wacko for Flack over here. How about a 2012 National Treasure Century Materials? We got a tag, a good tag, not the other tag. So we got that on there. And this one is a game used one. So we got that. National Treasures on there. A little bit different. The idea here is to have a little variety. It's not meant to be just one category, but to have a little bit of everything on there. And it isn't a BGS slab, so already Eric is excited.
Oh, well, yeah.
The username of that seller, that's probably way more than he paid for it, if I had to guess.
Oh, Brandon, but that doesn't matter. Brandon, we're ballers. We got $12,000 in Jay Cutler money, man. We don't care, Brandon. We don't care. Brandon, this is right here money laundered. We don't care. Like, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is that we get a sweet Wacko for Flacco PC. And right here, authentic game worn material. Fantastic. 1 of 1. Here's another $1,000. We can keep going.
This just reminded
me. We'll do one or two more. What's that?
This reminded me of the movie Brewster's Millions. Like,
basically, that's what we're doing, man.
We gotta spend that money.
We're trying here. All right. How about one more? We'll do 1 or 2 more here, and then I think we'll have made our point. And then, like I said, I'll have a little fun with it. How about a Joe Flacco 2009 Topps autograph, jumbo patch, authentic game worn, jersey size tag. All right, $400. Eric, I'm not coming anywhere close to blowing through my 12,000. Like, and I'm just hitting buy it now, so I'm not even doing best offers on anything. I'm not coming anywhere close.
You don't seem to be.
You know what? You know what, Brandon? Maybe I'm doing this wrong. The problem is I'm looking at stuff on eBay I can actually hit buy it now for right now. Why don't I just go historic? Why don't I go into the past? Why don't I do that? Okay, let's go to Fanatics Collect for a second. Let's go to the past. Hold on. Let's do the sales history. All right. So here's a 2008 Topps Chrome Superfractor, 434 with buyer's premium. Fuck! We're not even coming close, Eric. I can't
when
spend
did that
it.
Sell?
That was
2020.
Yep. Eric, I'm not coming anywhere close. Like, Eric, I'm trying to blow through $12,000, and it's just not working. This is not working.
The funny thing is that you use Flacco, and we've had this discussion. His one reason you pointed it out. He's Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, decent numbers, obviously great team around him when he was on the Ravens and everything. But he was comparatively, when not only you looked at like current players or current rookies or when guys are just getting drafted, coming out, when I looked at his National Treasures RPAs, it was stupid how cheap they were for a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a Super Bowl MVP quarterback, until he went to the Cleveland Browns and took them to the playoffs. And then people was like, oh yeah, there's Joe Flacco. And his prices went up.
It did. Then of course, but Brandon, even with that, did I not, if the goal was to build, and by the way, I promise there is a point I'm getting to. Hang on. There is a point I'm getting. I'm not just picking on Jay Cutler, although it is funny for me. As a Packer fan, it is funny for me, just to be clear. But that's not the reason I'm doing it. Specifically, I wanted to make a point is that, Brandon, even acknowledging that some of those eBay lots that are active are overpriced, but even still, with our $12,000 budget that I hypothetically had, Brandon, we can still put together a pretty darn sweet PC. Like, we could like have our pick of, and by the way, that's assuming we don't make best offers. We can make offers on some of this and get discounts off those numbers. Like, in some cases, substantial, I'm sure. So we could really knock that price even down way more and get even more. We could put together an elite level PC of stuff, really cool stuff, and be able to make some strong offers on some of this and be able to take it down, and put together a great PC. My overall point is not to besmirch the good name of Jay Cutler. Heaven forbid I should do such a thing. And at the end of the day, for the guy who bought it, I listened to the podcast where he was explaining it, and I understood his point. And I actually have a follow-up question that I want to ask you guys. But my first point is that, look, for fandom, he felt like it was appropriate. He felt like for him it was a Grail. As a Bears fan, this is probably the best quarterback he's had in his lifetime comfortably, because it's just, again, options weren't great. It was the best of a bad lot. He did have some moments and stuff like that. Great, fine. But the reality is that It is a lot of money. Like $12,000. Again, we emphasized this in the past. It is a lot of money. We are talking about, and you can get a lot of nice stuff. I just demonstrated that. You could get stuff from a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Again, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, well, I just put together a really fun, nice PC of cards just hitting buy it nows for you right out of stuff that is available right at the time that we're recording this podcast episode right now. Not stuff the hypothetical, the Fanatics collect is old stuff. That's old stuff in the past. But those other ones were all active listings. At the moment this podcast is being recorded, you could hit buy it now and buy all those things for less money if I gave you a $12,000 and have money left over, Eric. You could get a couple of lemons. I know. We've even got money left over. Eric, you know what? You can have a couple and a chocolate stick. That's how loaded we are. Just make it rain, Eric. Make it rain.
Don't joke.
Make it rain.
My head would explode.
Just for reference, I shared it before, but that is the pricely sum of what I paid for his National Treasures RPA, and that was this year. So,
and so the point is that you could build yourself quite a substantial PC. So, bottom line, based on what we're looking at, though, and I'll tell you this, and I did go into completed listings as well as part of my digging. I did go into completed listings, and I really think it comes down to it's not so much a Jay Cutler thing. I think
the 2012 Prizm.
It's a 2012 Prizm. It really is. And because now I'm going to use the Joe Flacco as a thing to kind of close the door on that piece. But then I've got a follow-up question for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Joe Flacco. And when I do in Terapeak, I'm searching eBay the last 3 years, and I sorted it by the highest price, basically, because I wanted to see what the most expensive items are. Well, most of the most expensive items are going to be like physical jerseys, stuff like game-worn jerseys and stuff like that. By the way, speaking of, jokes aside, you can have a Ravens game-worn jersey from the Super Bowl season for $3,500 sold in March of 2024. And you still have money left over, by the way. You still have money left over. There is a Contenders Championship ticket 1 of 1 that sold in 2022 for $2,350. You still have money left over, by the way. Just saying. Okay, so here's one that I think is a fair comp that actually will kind of play into the Prizm portion of it. So again, I'm not judging the Jay Cutler. I think it's high. I don't care about the justifications. I think it's silly high. However, I do think the Prizm is the key that plays a role here, because the people that like the Prizm, they like the shinies. They like it a lot, and they're willing to pay good money for it.
And those black Finites they're considered the best rookie card, best non-auto rookie card for any player.
Exactly. So just to make it as apples to apples I can, because I can't find the black Finite. I don't have access to that. I couldn't show you what that is. But here is the gold Prizm. The gold Prizm out of 10. Same thing, 2012. So here it is in a PSA 9. So that one did sell in the last 3 years on eBay. So I can give you the gold Prizm price. The gold Prizm price was $1,132 in February of 2025. So at least it is this year. So I can give you this year. I can say it's over $1,100. So Brandon, again, I can look at it and go, like, for Jay Cutler, that seems kind of wacky, seems kind of wild, but multiple people were willing to do it. It was a collector who bought it in the end. It wasn't O'Leary. It wasn't Kevin O'Leary. It was a guy who actually collects Chicago Bears cards. I have checked the Instagram. He does have the bona fides. He collects the black Finites of Chicago Bears players. So that is legit. That's fine. But here's the interesting thing. So if the Joe Flacco gold Prizm from that same brand and same year went for $1,132 in February of this year, what would the black Prizm go for? With what we just talked about, with the Prizm being so, like, they're into it. If Jay Cutler is worth $12,000, what's Flacco worth in the black Prizm? Apples to apples. If we make it as fair as we can, what's that worth?
$24,000.
I don't know. Like, we have no way of knowing for sure, but I'd be curious what the multiple would be. We're starting at 1,100, so what's the multiple?
Has there been any Cutler golds sold?
I'll see if I can pull one up.
Because I don't know what the multiplier is usual. I mean, you could do it simple and say, well, multiply by 10, right? But that's not normally how it goes. So
exactly. It's a matter of getting the right buyers.
Just a guess. It might go the same as, or somewhere in the ballpark of the Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
right, so here we go.
If you had a fan with that kind of change that was looking, a Flacco super PC'er, you could rise it a little bit, same type of scenario, but I don't know that there would be anybody that would willing to go that high, because I do know that the Contenders 1 of 1 auto, rookie auto, Last I knew, it was still available somewhere in the range of 7,500 or something like that. So, I mean, personally, I would rather have that than the Prizm, but
Sure. Look, here's the thing. Here's what I think is funny. So this would be a question for us, maybe. Um, do we consider this a chicken or the egg situation? Because a J Cutler 2012 gold prism sold 3 days ago. The problem
ooh.
is it sold after the Black Finites. So did the Black Finite drag it up is the question that I would have. So I have the answer for you from 3 days ago. So it's about as recent a comp as we're going to get right now. $1,280.
So
But
similar.
I'd argue, but this is after the Black Finite sale. So did that pull it up a little bit? Because the previous one to that was in 2022, and that was $350.
Honestly, I think that set and people knowing that they're losing the license and everything, there is this strong belief that the Prizm name will stay like established. It will stay on a pedestal, and that being the first set of it, that being the one of one. They were like, people don't realize that those 2012s, like those early sets, it was tough to even pull a silver. And then there wasn't the 45 billion different colored patterned rainbows and everything. It was a very simplified rainbow, but to hit any of them was very, very, it was like, I wouldn't necessarily maybe go 90s insert difficulty, but they were tough to hit. So I think a lot of it now is this vision of the set going away, and that first set, dare I ruffle feathers by saying that they may be looking at it as like a 52 tops type situation. But Prism is, highly regarded in both basketball and football. And those first year sets, I do believe is a lot of people trying to scoop as many of them up as they can. So,
Sure. I don't disagree with any of those things you just said. But again, I would love to have seen what it would have gone for before the Black Prism sold for what it did.
yeah, it
Because
would
now,
be an interesting thing to see, would the gold have pushed the black higher or
yeah,
vice
or
versa?
vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah, because now I'm looking at a sale after a record price for Jay Cutler. Does that draw additional attention to the gold? Does that push the gold up? Because they don't come up all the time. Again, the last one before that was 2022 that I see on eBay. So if it only comes up once in a blue moon, and now all of a sudden a Black Prism is selling for this record dollar amount, like big time, does that then push the gold as well? Because it
right,
could. They could literally pull each other. One could be pushing the other one up, or the higher one could be pulling the ones underneath up because the one of one is now had. The golds are not super available, but if one suddenly comes up, again, I don't think it's a coincidence that one almost 3 years between listings, one gets listed after a record breaking sale for the Black Finite. Does that
right.
one bring it out of the woodwork? And somebody goes, hey, if you want to pay this much for it, here it is. Here's the 2012 gold prism. And maybe that's the thought process to suddenly get somebody to list it. So again, conjecture. No way to know for sure. I think it's interesting, but I thought you guys would enjoy that. A little comparison to to podcast favorite Wacko for Flacco. But see, there's some nice cards I was able to show you well within our little $12,000 budget there. You get some pretty snazzy stuff and again, that's without you negotiating. If you did a little haggling, you could probably do even better. You could probably have gotten some discounts on some of those cards and put together an even better collection. So interesting stuff. Okay, here is my question. We use this as an example, had a little fun with it and everything, but we all have our player collections, our fandoms, and all these things. We're not shy to pay strong money on cards. Like I've paid record prices for Medano cards that I've bought, and I've talked about that in the past. I've got my Dennis PC. I pay strong on those compared to what the marketplace holds on that. But again, the J Cutler $12,000 thing got me thinking about that a little bit and go like, wow, that's $12,000 a lot of money. However you want to slice it. Just in general, Black Finite Prism or not, Brandon, that's a lot of moolah. I've already been on the record as saying that, like for hockey, the gold standard is the shield. The shield
Mhm.
is like the top of the food chain. I have a shield card for Medano. There are other shield cards out there. They are available. There are circumstances where I would consider it, but like realistically, I feel that a lot of those shield cards I've been priced out of. But I'm talking about a couple of $1,000s. If I remove though the budgetary restriction, like you have the money, there is a certain point though, like I don't care if I have all the money in the world, I don't feel like it's worth that. And if I don't feel it's worth that, I don't want to pay it. I don't care if I can afford it. That's no longer the issue. If I remove that restriction, I am willing to pay strong. I am willing to pay record prices for certain items that I feel like I want badly enough. For this collector, for the Jay Cutler thing, he wanted it, clearly. He wanted it at all costs. He had to have it, and he went after it. More power to him. That's fine. There are cards that I would also aggressively go after in a similar vein, but there are still limits to it. But the question is, like, how far above, I guess, this is the question, how far above, like, what would most people would consider a reasonable comp port would you go for a card that you really wanted? Again, I'm removing the financial restriction from it. You can go nuts. You can go up a million times X, what would be a reasonable comp. But I think the answer for us wouldn't be that high. I would pay very aggressively. I'll give my answer last, but I'm curious, how far above what most people would consider reasonable for a comp would you be willing to go after it if the money's there? You can do it, no consequences, have at it. For me, there's still a limit. I'm not willing to pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for Shield. I don't care how much money I have. But there are cards that I would go aggressively over what would be considered a reasonable comp, percentage-wise. What would be the limit for the kind of thing that you'd be looking for, whatever your Grail would be or whatever the card you'd want is. So why don't you, Eric, take a second to think about it, but I want to get your thought on it, and then Brandon, I'll come right back. Go ahead, Eric. $1,000 for the Lemon. Make it happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking just PC, it would be ludicrous to spend that kind of money on a Reggie Lemlin card. I mean, as much as he's my favorite player and I have all this stuff around, and I mean, that'd be absolutely ludicrous. The most I've ever spent was $100 on this Panini private signings. I've never seen another one. It was sitting on eBay for a long time. The guy wouldn't come down, and the longer it sat there, the more it drove me crazy, and the more that I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find any others. And to this day, I still haven't. I've had this for a long time now and still have not seen any more. It's not serial numbered, but I finally just said, okay, fine. Even though spending $100 on a Reggie Lemlin card, I think is stupid. I did it because I had to have it in my PC, and I love it. It's my favorite one. Not because of the $100, but it really is my favorite one. Because it's in a Bruins uniform. We all know about Leaf. It's on card in a Bruins uniform. Leaf has stickers in Calgary uniforms, the same damn picture over and 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 over again. So, yeah. So $100 is the most I've ever spent, and even then, I was shaking my head like, "What are you doing?" So
okay.
there's no
now
way.
here's a question. Now here's a question. The reason I posed the question the way I did is that I wasn't fixated. So Brandon, just so that you understand what I'm saying, I'm not fixating on the specific dollar amount, because you could say that the card that I'm interested in is a $20 card, and I would pay $200 for it. It's not the raw dollar amount. There's another card that could be worth $200 and you pay $200 for. That's not the point. The point is what over. So Eric is talking about that $100 card. What do you think would have been a reasonable price for that card? You paid $100. You were willing to pay $100, but what would have been, in your mind, what is a reasonable price for that card? What would have been a reasonable price?
At most, probably half that, $50.
Yeah. So basically, you went double over what you thought would be a reasonable price because you wanted it. And that's basically what I'm saying. That's the reason I'm making the caveat, because depending on the player or the card, the answer may vary. Saying you're willing to pay $200 for a $20 card is 10x. But saying you're willing to pay $800 for an $800 card, well, $800 is more. Yes, but you already feel that card is worth $800. So paying $800 for it is just paying the appropriate amount that you feel is the value for it. So that's not going over. That's paying what you feel is appropriate. So it's not the raw dollar amount. It's how much above what you think would be the reasonable price would you be willing to go for that item if you really wanted it. And that's the question. So that's kind of Eric's answer on that. That's fair. Brandon, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
There is one card that could potentially get me in
The
trouble.
Victor Robles?
No.
Oh, okay.
Manoa. A Manoa
No,
card.
it's
Oh, Alec Manoa. I've heard that one's big time.
I've heard.
The autographed version of this. The 2014 Bowman Chrome Michael Taylor.
Oh, it's Michael Taylor. Sorry, when I
Yeah.
said Robles, I meant Michael Taylor.
No,
I knew I was thinking of the Superfractor. That's what I was talking about.
So I know what I paid on that one. I know what I would prefer to pay on the
Sure,
autograph.
That's fine. That's fine.
But if I'm just gonna say it like this. If that card ever comes up and it's on auction, I will definitely go above what 99.9999999% of the hobby would pay on that card. And I would battle till the very last penny that I knew that I could not put my family in difficult situations. In fact, I would be willing to sacrifice some of my more prestigious pieces to create revenue to be able to obtain that. And that
Sure.
would shock some people, but it goes back to the collecting side of it. And, it's not, this is going to sound crazy to say, it's at that point, it's not necessarily what is it worth? Like what is, you mentioned the acceptable comp. For me, that has been, I guess you would call it your white, my white whale. I've never been able to find that card. And I've chased it for many, many, many years now. I've opened boxes trying to say, okay, well, maybe for shits and giggles, it's still in a box. And, the boxes are even tough to do because I think they're 400 now or something like that. So, you do that too many times, it starts adding up. So yeah, I'm not going to put a dollar amount on it because, when reality hits, things could, I could shy away. I don't think it would go at a price out of a realm, unless just somebody wanted to be an ass to me, which I guess is possible.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah, exactly. But I would go 10x what I paid on that one.
Sure.
At least.
Okay.
So
that's fair. That's fair. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. That's why I say it's not a static amount. Because again, the numbers are going to vary for every individual. That's why I made a very important. So Eric, when it comes to these particular topics, I always leave it as the caveat that the answer for you is going to differ than somebody else. That's why the dollar amount doesn't matter, because $100 for somebody is a massive amount of money. Oh my God, hold on, I have to save my pennies. But for somebody else, it's it's a rounding error. For somebody else, it's like, oh yeah, that's an impulse buy, boom, no problem, done.
Well,
it depends on the individual. The individual is going to determine that piece of it.
The other side to it too that you have to take into account is, and Cutler is a great example because there's not going to be a million Cutler collectors out there, I don't think. Just like there wouldn't be a high population of Michael Taylor collectors, right? You might have somebody that wants they're working on all the Bowman Chrome, or a repacker that's trying to get Superfractor autos or whatever. You might have some competition there because of what it actually is, but overall the audience is small. So when you go to throw a dollar amount or say what was a fair comp on it, you really can't put that price there because, let's be honest, if I obtain that card, what I paid for it is irrelevant because I don't plan to get rid of it, unless I'm down on my last leg and my family needs help or whatever. But even then, I wouldn't expect to get out of it, what I wound up paying for it, expecting that I would pay more than most people in the hobby. So
right. And that's kind of plays into the thing is the color sale. Part of what made that thing interesting to me and part of what made it happen is that the person who did the Cutler sale used one of those funding services, basically.
Mm.
So he was willing to, he goes, this is what I'm willing to bid this for me. And in turn, I am going to ship you a bunch of cards. Let's sell these cards and basically use that to offset the rest. So he basically consolidated chunks of his collection and cards that were fitted. And I believe, I could be mistaken, I think one of the cards that he consolidated was the gold Prizm of that Jay Cutler. So he used the gold Prizm version. So maybe that one that sold, maybe that was part of that. Maybe that was part of his collection. Maybe that's how the timing worked out, which maybe worked in his favor. So maybe, ironically, him paying so much for the black Prizm might have helped his sale of the gold, and in turn helped him offset a little bit more of it. So maybe that actually turned out for him. Again, I'm just guessing. It's conjecture. But the point is that I believe, if memory serves me from the podcast episode, I think he used the gold because he had a gold, and I think he used the gold as part of the consolidation effort to get the one of one. So he basically said, I'm going to trade, I'm going to use this as part of, going to grab this stack of cards here, and I'm going to try to trade up so that I can get this black Prizm because I want the one of one, because to me, in the scenario, that's a Grail level card. I want that specific card. So for them, it was like that justified the rest of it, because you're going to take equity you already have in your collection, and I'm going to use this to then pay for that, which is fine. That's what you want to do with that. It does add an interesting element to it, though, because then that allows you, as a person who normally doesn't have $12,000 sitting around, to suddenly be able to make a $12,000 bid, which kind of complicates the math on auctions. It creates a different dynamic that wasn't there before. So it's not institutional, Eric, but it is a scenario where we're not talking about, in the past, you needed to have $12,000 cash if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Now you have kind of a layaway kind of way of doing it indirectly. You can kind of do a consolidation thing. You know, there's still a percentage. There's still, you know, the person doing this for you is still getting a cut. They're still getting a percentage on this. So that's the business portion of it. But it does allow you as the collector then to go into your box of cards and use that equity towards that thing. So but it also means you can bid a lot higher than the person who has to do it in cash.
I'm going to say this. So my number, as crazy as it would be on that card, I ain't borrowing no damn money from nobody. Like, when I said I would let go of some pieces, it would be to refund from my account what I paid for.
Yeah,
like the money would be there to pay for it, and then I would sell stuff to put it back in the coffers.
Yep.
So I ain't, like, my grandfather always had this statement, and you know, he was a man that paid for pretty much everything in cash, and it was, if I can't afford it, I don't need it. You know, I think the only thing the man ever financed was his house. And so, yeah, like I get people do that. That's not the ball game I want to play in. So make sure. That,
but it does. But we have to make sure we include it in the factor of the way when you see these prices, factor that in. Funding services are not part of the game. Right. If you've seen some of those more expensive items, there's a good chance that someone utilized a funding service. Look, for all the 1,018 jokes that I make about the old floating head, Eric's personal favorite, when he got that Sheila Joe Jackson card, that was with funding service. That wasn't straight up cash. It wasn't. And that was a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money, which means you're taking big cards and consolidating in order to make it work. But that means, Eric, that people that are playing in the six-figure level are utilizing that as a way. So indirectly, you're becoming another bidder normally you'd have to have that cash. And if you don't have that cash, you would not be a bidder. So the price would have actually been lower because you wouldn't have been available to make a bid at all because you didn't have the cash on hand. So you wouldn't have been able to try. But in this case, it allowed you to try. It allowed you to bid more aggressively than if you didn't have that as a backstop. It does create an interesting dynamic. It does change the numbers and the way they float around a little bit.
I think those businesses are great for those who want to use them and can, you know, use them responsibly and not get themselves in trouble.
In a jam?
In a jam. Because, you know, when somebody gets you in a jam, that's bad jam. So you don't want
unless we get sponsored by Jam. I wouldn't mind getting sponsored by Jam.
So you don't want to get into a jam. But the way my brain works is similar to Brandon's. I wouldn't spend more than I had. I wouldn't risk, you know, anything with, you know, my family's finances. And then I would, you know, after I got the card, I would then go on a selling spree to replenish But I totally understand why people use those businesses. I think they're great as long as they're on the up and up, and as long as nobody gets themselves into a
jam. Smuckers, Brandon. I'm thinking Smuckers. If we could get Smuckers on this, that'd be amazing. That'd be good.
Or Welch's.
I'm not particular. Listen, I am willing to sell out the big jam.
Hey, who isn't?
Let's make this happen, man. Also, alternatively, Eric, another option. Again, what you're saying is perfectly fine. But Brandon, I've heard an alternative option is you could just wait for a generous benefactor to gift you a Bobby Orr rookie.
Ooh.
That is another option. Much simpler on the financing side of things, don't you think, Eric? Just wouldn't that, Brandon? Don't you think that's much simpler? This is all well and good, but what if you just waited for a generous benefactor to gift you a Bobby Orr rookie instead?
I mean, that was very nice.
But I'm just saying, Brandon, a lot less math involved in it. A lot less math. It's much simpler.
Speaking of,
yes,
I read a brilliant. I had to look it up to make sure. But could we get Billy?
I assume you mean Cilio. Go on.
Yeah, to pass across, since they do a lot of the old 90s inserts and stuff. There was literally an insert set that was called That's Jam.
Yeah, that's right.
By Skybox.
That is true, yes.
In the sets. We need the That's Jam.
One step closer to the jam. We're getting closer to the jam. I like it. Fair. All right. So I'll answer the question to finish off, and then Brandon's got a little topic that we'll touch on here at the end. So hopefully you folks enjoyed. I hope you understood my point. I wanted to have a little bit of fun with the Jay Cutler thing, but listen, the Wacko for Flacco shopping spree was awesome. I enjoyed that. Like, I couldn't even blow through all the money, guys. Like, I still had money left over.
Millions, baby.
I would have had more Flacco if he didn't go to the Browns.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Look, we've explained this before. You've had your chances. Just buy it. Next time, just buy the thing when it's cheap. Just get on with it.
But you know what my dilemma and holdup was there. I was literally trying to figure out which one I actually wanted more was the National Treasure of the Exquisite. And then I was kind of waiting for patches and options. And I didn't think the damn dude was going to play anymore. I thought,
he came off the couch to become a fucking legend again.
Yeah. Elite.
Legend. Anyway. All right. So to answer this. So the question itself is a simple one. That's why I wanted to lay it out. By the way, folks in the comment section, I would love to know. Don't give us dollar amounts because, again, dollar amounts are all relative. Eric, in the end, said double what most people would consider, what he considers would be a reasonable cost. He was willing to pay double for that card because he really wanted it. Brandon said he would be willing to pay 10x what he paid for this other card. Again, it's not a dollar amount. We don't know what the original dollar amount is. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. It's all relative to whatever you think the appropriate amount would be. Because, again, as collectors, we would like to pay nothing. We would like it for free. That would be even better. You know what's better than paying a good price, Brandon? Free.
Free 99.
So we're not trying to impress you with how much money we spend on sports cars. We would rather impress you with how little we spend on sports cars.
That's why I didn't say what I paid on that.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that's clear. So we're all on the same page here. But sometimes you got to pony up if you really want the thing. If it is something you really desire and you are able to do it, then sometimes you do have to pony up. It happens. That's part of the deal. For me, it's tricky because most of the stuff I really wanted, the stuff I was really chasing, the Captain Ahab white whales that I was chasing after, most of them I have been able to pick up over time. Some of them I did have to pay aggressively. Some of them I did set record prices and stuff that I've just talked about. I talked about those shields and everything. I have one, and there are other ones that I think are nice. I've literally had opportunities to buy them. So they have been in front of me with the opportunity to buy them, and I didn't pull the trigger because I just couldn't. It didn't feel right to me to pay that price. It wasn't. And the problem is they're not going to get lower now. They're going to get higher. So if I didn't think it made sense at that price, then increasing the number isn't going to make it better for me. There are a handful of ones from the 90s. So the Mangini Collection is probably the simplest one for me to figure out. There are a couple of ones from the 90s. The problem is they come up so infrequently that I don't know what the appropriate price would be. But let me just say this. Whereas in my brain, back in the day, some of those cards would have been in the low hundreds. I'm giving you just a number so you can put it in context. I feel I would probably be closer to 4 figures on it. I won't like it, but it's only because there's so few left. It's only because there's just that tiny little, the list has gotten so small on those specific ones that I'm after. I'm willing to push far and beyond what I think is reasonable to the point that's like, no, this is idiotic. This is moronic. I don't want to pay anywhere near that amount. But if it will extract one out of the ether and put it into my hands, Eric, then damn the torpedoes. I'm increasing the like button rate. Let's go.
I don't want to increase the like
Eric,
button.
sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices must be made. It is what it is. But yes, bottom line is that I am willing to pay extremely aggressively, but Brandon, only because those ones have eluded me since the 90s, literally the 90s. So I can say that I have literally been chasing them for decades, plural. So it only because of that. Am I will? It's like, no, I want it. And one day, Brandon, I will have them in the collection. And when and if I do, it shall be a glorious day. We're bringing out the mission accomplished banner. We're dusting it off and we're bringing it. It's gonna be excellent. But for the new stuff, yeah, if I see something cool, that's fine. But nah, I'm not gonna kill myself over it. Just nah, I'm good. For the majority of that stuff, it's fine. Even one of ones and some of the other stuff, yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there. There really is. But it's like, yeah. But I'll look at it, and actually, I'll show you guys an example. This is kind of a fun one. Just to close this off as an example here. Here's an example of something that is already so ridiculously overpriced. There is no way, no how, outside of Eric's like button money all coming in at the same time, in which case, maybe then it's fine. But here, I'll show you an example. Just so we're all on the same page. Check it out. First year of the Cup, 0506. This is the auto patch, with the design there. This is the similar design to like the Crosby and Ovechkin, that kind of design there. So here it is. So this is actually just the regular design, whatever. It's the patch auto version, whatever. So anyway, bottom line. The seller here is Ovechkin, the Great Eight. And I'm like 95% sure this is the guy that owns in Instagram all those high-end Ovechkins and Crosbys and all that stuff. And the thing is, actually, I think he was on the Sports Card Investor video. So he got some super high-end hockey. So he's got some super high-end stuff. The point is, that price, that right there, again, this is first year of the Cup. Beautiful card. I like it. I like a lot of aspects of it. Brandon, I'm going to need to move that decimal like one over to the left. And then that first number has to become a 1. And then we can talk. Like, I need to move that decimal 1 over to the left. And that first number needs to become a 1, and then I'll think about it.
But that's literally the Cutler effect right there. You said it right off. It's the first year of not only the Cup, but that's also Ovi and Crosby rookie year. So those boxes are insanely priced now, So I'm not a Modano, aficionado. That does seem like a hell of a lot of money, but I do think it's first year set, and who was the rookie class there is probably inflated that whole product pretty.
It did very much. The first year Cup products do have a little bit of a mystique that the other ones don't have. That all said, I've done the napkin math in the past where I've talked about it, where I go over the course of my collecting lifetime. I said it's probably accurate that I've probably spent $100,000 on Modano cards. We're talking a quarter of that in one card. That's a straight up no-go. That's a no-go. That's why I said, like, I'm not joking. Like, in my mind, speaking of multiples, in my mind, the decimal needs to move over 1 to the left, and the first number needs to become a 1, and then maybe I think about it. That's a lot less than what he's asking for. I don't think he's going to accept my best offer, Brandon.
You might should just print that picture off.
Yeah.
Size it down.
Mm-hmm.
Front and back. Glue it
Get
together.
It done in a really nice printer. Get it done on a nice
touch.
printer. Get it done on a nice printer, with the glossy finish and everything. Yeah.
Maybe use one of the old Upper Deck dummy inserts. See if you can find a way to get it printed on that, and then throw it in the one touch.
Yeah, throw it in the one touch and be done with it. Yeah, pretty much. So I shared it because, look, if one of y'all buys it, show me. I would love to see it. I'm not going to pay for it, Eric. But listen, if one of our wealthier viewers wishes to purchase it, I would love to see it. Just let me have a look at it. That'd be nice. I promise I'll give it back.
You'd hold up, take a picture with it.
That's fine. I accept those terms. That's fine. But yeah, so like I said, that card, as far as I'm concerned, is a museum piece. It sits on eBay as a museum piece. It's just there. People want to look at it, can look at it. That's about it. So you can enjoy a nice high-res image of it. But again, that goes back to what I said earlier. Even if money's no object, man. Even if literally I have all the monies in the world. No, that's still a no for me. There are limits to everything. There are limits to everything.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a limit for sure.
It is. It is indeed.
But
Now,
if you win, the Powerball, whatever, that's 500 something million or whatever it is right now. Yeah,
no, I
$24,000.
got way cooler stuff to spend 25 grand on, Eric. Way cooler stuff that I'd spend
You
25 grand.
$500 million. It's like
And yet, I would still rather spend the 25,000 on something way cooler.
yeah.
The problem, Brandon, isn't the dollar amount necessarily. The problem is I don't think it's worth that, even with unlimited funds. It's still not worth that to me. That's why I said, that's why I gave the question the way that I did. It's not about the raw dollar amount, because someone with millions and millions and millions of dollars, large amounts aren't that bad. I have no problem spending money if I have it, but it's not worth that to me. And that's the issue. And that's why I say there are cards out there that I'll chase and I'll pay good money for them relative to what other people may think is worthwhile, but there are limits.
Mm-hmm.
There's a limit to everything. So to each their own. All right. Last topic we'll touch on. There was a Mangini Collection video relating, I think it was to vintage versus modern, Brandon. So Brandon brought this up, so he wanted to kind of discuss. You said you were even thinking about doing a video. You kind of were trying to figure it out and trying to do it. But why don't the floor is yours? This case, you tell. What are you thinking about? Where's your head at on this one? What do you want to talk about on this one?
So, to be honest, the past week, listening to some videos while I'm working and everything, it's kind of surprised me. We talk whether before we do this or during the podcast or during the week or whatever, and there's been a couple topics that this being one of them, I'd mentioned to you guys a few weeks ago, like about the whole modern collecting side of things. And so I seen today, Mangini had put a video out on his channel. Dustin had him on, and they were also talking about this topic. And then Scott, Big Scott 35, I seen he kind of listened. He had listened to Mangini's and was discussing it a bit too. So basically, there was a few things that I pulled from it, and my point was and we've kind of touched on this before at various times, but when we hear the term in the content space of collectors, it always seems to automatically defer to the vintage crowd.
Sure.
And then when it's spoken upon modern, ultra modern, that section is always usually deferred to the flipper or the investor or whatever. And so I was trying to grasp my head around, like, what will it take, or why is the modern, ultra modern collector non-existent? And I have a few reasons that I think could possibly be there. One, we've had this discussion when we've talked about content. Collecting content, like, your pickups, you do modern and, vintage. Eric is predominantly vintage, but he picks up some modern stuff here and there.
Yeah.
He was
I
showing
would
some stuff he
argue,
was
kind of
picking
to your
up.
point, Brandon. I would argue, if we're talking about my pickups, I would argue the vast majority of it
Is
qualifies as
modern.
modern. Yeah.
Yeah. And so me coming from someone, and I've had this discussion before with Eric when I sold my Willie Mays. I've had some very awesome vintage cards, and I had made the choice to move out of some of them. I still have some, but I had found that my happy place was collecting the players and the teams that I like to follow. Now, the Washington Nationals don't have a very long history. The Baltimore Ravens, as you alluded to, unless you go back Cleveland days, they don't have a very long history. And I am a newer hockey fan, only a couple years, and I picked up, the Dallas Stars as my team, but even they only go back so far before they become Minnesota, right? So my favorite teams are also on a limited scale of even how deep, unless I want to dive into like the Expos and, again, the Browns, or if you want to say the Colts or whatever. But for the most part, they're pretty layered small. So a lot of my happy place is modern ultra modern stuff.
Mhm.
But again, when we talk about collecting or collecting content or whatever, or even the group, the crowd of collectors, that's normally automatically deferred to the vintage. I listened to Mangini, and he said, and I'm not pointing this out directed at Mangini himself. He kind of said it as an umbrella statement because he said, I feel that the vintage collectors, it's nothing against necessarily modern cards, it's the modern hobby.
Mhm.
And then he proceeded to say, because of, kind of the shenanigans and the scams and all that. But when I heard that part of it, I got to thinking, we've had this discussion. There's been scams and shenanigans around for many, many, many years. And a lot of it started with the vintage cards. So, like, and it's still continuing on today.
Well, the Dallas card show robbery is still unsolved. It probably was Eric,
Well,
allegedly, and that was all vintage.
yeah, well, the favorite of the hobby over the last couple of years, Kurt's Card Care,
Yep.
when it really started to become a highly questionable thing was when they were showing vintage being soaked.
Mhm.
Before it was like, oh, you're just buffing out a scratch or fixing when they started soaking vintage, it was like, holy shit, this, they're doing this. This is another level. So, when he said that, I kind of was like, I think it's there's a lot of BS that goes on in vintage too. So I don't know if I necessarily now, to his point, the modern hobby side, if you're talking about wax, all of the apparel, all of that, there is a lot to it. It's a
Mhm.
lot more convoluted, a lot more expensive, and so I can get that aspect of it. But I I, I think it boils down to, and this is, I'm taking a page out of Victor's book.
Mhm.
In my opinion, he said we're supposed to say that. So, in my opinion, I think some of it comes down to the bitterness between the content sides. And what I mean by that is we've talked about collecting content not really getting a lot of interest, right?
Mhm.
Vintage has a vintage collector group. So they have formed their little committee, and they each watch and comment and support, and 452,000 collectors channel. That's vintage minded, right? So them guys are getting, a community together and views. But if you start doing, and this as well, you start doing and showing modern collecting, there's not that much interest there because the content that gets views on the modern side is more of the investing, the flipping, the breaks, the whatever, the news stuff. That side shifted there. So I'm wondering if it isn't because, and again, this isn't throwing shade at anybody, but those guys sometimes need the redemption because they've done the research. They have the knowledge. They've been in the hobby for umpteen million years. They have all of these crazy, rare, vintage, you never see them cards, all of that.
Mhm.
So why aren't they getting more recognition? Why aren't they getting more support? Why are these people not listening to what they have to say and all that? And, you hear it. I mean, Paul says it. Oh, modern is trash. People are wasting all their money, blah, blah, blah. My takeaway from it is this is a hobby. It is supposed to be fun. And if I am collecting, whether it is Ty Cobb or Jason Robertson, if I am collecting the player that or cards that I enjoy, then why do we have a divide at all? Because we have what, 110, or sorry, 130 plus years, 135 plus years of cards to go through. Like, it all can't be 70s and prior. Like, and I think seeing that people actually can enjoy this new. I said if I was to be brand new coming into the hobby today, yes, it would be confusing, but I actually think that they have a great advantage to it because there's so many options out there. Now, this
Mhm.
is to the side of you are collecting, you are having fun, and you're not doing this with the intentions of monetary value, and future investing, whatever you want to call it. You're doing this as strictly a hobby that you are trying to have fun with. I think there are so many things out there now that are reasonable, that are affordable, that you just showed, you don't have to spend $12,000. You can buy a lot
Mhm.
of cheaper stuff and build a nice collection.
Yeah.
I showed like
And
I think I put
real
the
quick,
video up.
let me just pause you for 1 second. Also, in that example, I still used extreme outliers. It's important to note
Right.
because and Eric, you'll understand what I'm saying with this because I think Brandon's making some very interesting points. So, by the way, everybody, just a little behind the curtains. I didn't know exactly where Brandon was going to go with this. So the
No.
reason we're all sitting back, kind of absorbing it, is first we wanted to listen and kind of like, okay, as you're going through, and now I've got a couple of thoughts as you're going through. So, I just want to respond to one or two things. Um, in the example I used though with the Joe Flacco thing, I picked high end outliers
Hmm.
because we started with a $12,000 budget, hypothetical
Right.
budget. But if you told me $1,000, I could find you some really sweet Flacco cards. Like it isn't required. I didn't have to go to the extreme. But my point was, you could get some high end, and I think we all
Hmm.
agree those cards were pretty high end. National Treasures, like really nice, but you could still fit it under that budget for that same price as that other card. No knock on the guy who bought the card. Clearly, that's the card he wanted, so that's what he targeted and that's what he went after. My point is, if you give me a $12,000 budget, I could build you a sweet collection of a lot of things, depending on what you're looking for. So that was one thing. But that was an extreme outlier to use an extreme outlier, so it worked from that perspective. But to your point, it doesn't have to be super high end to build a nice collection of stuff you may like.
Right. Another point he made was people say that uh, I'm trying to I'm paraphrasing, so apologies.
Mhm.
It's not going to be word for word, but it was to the point of people are always saying that the vintage collectors are collecting because of nostalgia. I think is kind of his point to it.
That was
And
one
then
piece
he
he was
made
talking
the
about. Yeah.
statement of, well, I have many cards that I'm not, it's not nostalgia driven. I didn't watch Babe Ruth play and all that. And I understand his point to there. However, I've made this statement many times when I was buying vintage cards. It wasn't because I was a Babe Ruth fan. It wasn't because my grandfather told me about watching Babe Ruth play because my grandfather wasn't into cards. I don't have a father figure that was into cards at all. So what was my nostalgia factor? And we've all spoke on this. We were around in the time before the internets and all of that stuff, and we had these magazines that we loved every month that had articles and pictures and prices and all of this in it. And as our wee little lads, we would sit there and look at them and think, we will never own these. And to me, looking back and thinking back on that, and then having the opportunity to get them, that was a nostalgia trigger.
Mhm.
Because, I shared this card here, the 55 Bowman Hank Aaron. I
Mhm.
owned this as a kid. An older gentleman gave me and my cousin some cards. We split them up. I had this. I thought I was the king of the world. Dummy me traded it, and I always had regretted it, so I made sure to replace it.
Mhm.
So was it nostalgia on watching those guys play? No, I was doing it because as a youngster, you've seen all of those and you never thought you would own them. So that was another takeaway from it. I guess really the point is, and it just goes back to it, like I said earlier. I I don't know, and I experienced this in Atlantic City, and I don't know if anybody remembers the meetup or whatever. But I went
I thought you were
to
gonna say Atlantic City. You're gonna like. So then there was crime,
no, the
and I
Atlantic
feared
City
for my
National
life.
20, what was that, 2022?
Maybe something like that. Yeah.
I went to the little hangout thing,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it was very obvious. I had a Bowman Larry Doby that I had picked up at the show, and that grouping was oohing and eyeing and excited about the Larry Doby. But if I had showed them my 2021 Bowman Chrome Orange Refractor Brady House, who was a Nationals, rookie this year, it wouldn't have mattered much. Even though I'm a Nationals fan, I thought it was awesome that I was able to get that. It wouldn't have mattered because and I understand some people just might not be into that. But I don't know why there's constantly, and this topic comes up often. It's not like this is the first time we've heard of it. I don't know why or what is the driving factor amongst the vintage and modern, because yes, there are modern collectors. Carlos just said a lot of his stuff, his Favres, his Medanos, his Rosens, even though that's a silly PC for him, his wrestling stuff, that's all modern, ultra modern stuff. And we have fun with this. Like, we enjoy curating a collection of interest, whether it be team, player, set, insert, whatever, that we enjoy. So cool that you like the older stuff more, but I don't know why we're not equals. We hear I do this because I have a love for the cards, but last I checked, this stuff even coming out in 2025 is cards. So like, if people are having fun, there shouldn't be any division in it. Like, I just don't know why we can't coexist. And the only thing I can come to is the divisive factor in the way the content streams branch out. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I thought the conversation that Mangini had with Dustin and the one, the video he did, I thought both were good. But I don't understand why this topic keeps coming. And you guys both can attest, these thoughts about modern collecting didn't just arise from those videos. I have had discussions with you guys about like this topic of sorts for a couple weeks now. So it was interesting that it appeared. I don't know what drove it, but there was multiple videos on it.
Well,
Sure.
as somebody who's 98% vintage or whatever I am, it just modern. I have nothing. I don't have a problem with the collectors of modern. I don't understand their thought process at times. But I don't.
Now,
But
can I ask a question?
yeah.
Can I ask a question? So I want you to go, Eric, but I want to ask a question. And this comes to the very core of Brandon's question. You say you don't understand their thought process. My follow-up question is, why do you need to understand, and why does that matter?
I don't, because I was about to say is, to each their own, and to whatever, collect what you like and do what you like.
But if people practice that, though, then this conversation would be over in about 4 seconds.
I because that's truly how I feel. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
But as someone who collects vintage, I will never understand, the money I see all the time going, on passing at the shop for prospecting and opening wax and the gambling aspect. And I mean, the gambling thing I get, because that's an addiction, and I'm used to be an addictions counselor, and so that part I get.
I bet you don't get it.
You bet I don't understand addiction. Okay, get it. I bet.
Brandon, he missed that one. He missed that one. Whoosh right over him.
I bet.
Yeah.
So,
I bet.
but the big thing, the prospects. Well, this is the new up and coming rookie, and I'm going to spend, $5,000 on rookie cards for this kid.
Look, if I want to spend $12,000 on J Color Black Prizm, stop judging me, Eric.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But if that's what makes you happy, great. But I'll just use. I've used the same example over and over again. I'll use it one more time here tonight. Bowl. I saw people dump lots of money into that kid and lost it all, except for Brandon. He didn't.
If I went the opposite way,
but he made it all.
But I see this stuff all the time, and I see people opening boxes and just giving us hundreds, thousands of dollars looking for one player, and or I can't wrap my head around that. I'd rather take that money, go over to the Bobby Orr counter, buy an expensive vintage Bobby Orr card, and bring it home and put it in my collection and know that at no point in time for the rest of eternity, that card's going to go down in price.
So I'm going to stop you right at that point, because we hear so many times it's not about the money, right? All the time. It's not about the money. I'm not collecting because it's about the money. When I was buying vintage, I literally have said I felt I was spending my money in a safe way, right? I was buying this stuff, it was safe, it wasn't going to go down. Spoiler alert, a lot of it went down. The other side to it was I said, I'm going to get to enjoy it today. My kids will get to enjoy it later, because in my mind, I'm thinking, save money. People talk about vintage is never going down. It's only going to go up, yada, yada, whatever. And then I started like rethinking that whole process based on what I do now for a living and other aspects. Again, something when I sold the Willie Mays, okay, I'll just be blatantly honest here. When I sold that Willie Mays, it was before he had passed, but people knew he was way up in age and he wasn't going to last forever.
Right.
I'll have you know, I'm not going to use the term lost because I got to enjoy the card. I sold it, and I think I ended up getting 800 less than I purchased it for. And you can actually go on, and I almost did a video on this, but I didn't want to fluff too many feathers. You can go on and pick some of the common, well-known, veteran, vintage names and look at what people consider the investment grades, those mid grades there in the 50s and 60s, and look over the trajectory. And many of them, now it's obviously going to vary based on the eye appeal aspect of it, but many of them are going to be less than they were several years ago. And, I'm not going to sit here and say why or whatever of why the changes happened. It's neither here nor there. But to Carlos's point on the last topic we talked about and how much money we would want to put into something, that was also something that I didn't enjoy sitting on my mind when I wanted to buy a vintage card. Oh, well, this is going to cost me $3,000. This one's going to be $1,500. This one's $2,000. This one's $4,000. I was doing it during the pandemic when I was selling Bol Bol or whoever else that was, going for a good amount of money. But in the back of my mind, every time I made one of those transactions, I knew that wasn't the sandbox that I enjoyed playing in. And it would sit there and I would look at it and be like, damn, I spent a lot of money on that just sitting there, right? You're talking about the context of what you see on what people are paying for wax and everything else. That's another, that, like I said, I think the content side of it and what people are seeing of the modern side is driven towards that. But I would like to let you know that in the past year, I have bought a good bit of cards. I've been having a blast building collection and stuff I like. And I think only 4 cards have cost me over $100. None of them, well, maybe one was over 200. It was like 215, I think, with tax or whatever. You can do this without going broke easily. It's all about how you want to approach it and what is actually giving you enjoyment out of it. And I roped myself back because I let myself get away from where my fun spot was. And there's probably tons of other people out there in the same boat. Carlos buys shit all the time, modern. He's not, he said he's not, refinancing his condo to go buy a card or whatever.
Yeah. Now, Eric's place is a different story. You can refinance that shit a bunch of times. There's actually quite a bit of money in it, Brandon. It's great.
But no, in all fairness, also just, like Eric said, he doesn't understand it, right? He doesn't understand the modern stuff. And then the vintage guys will sometimes say, well, we know this and we've been doing this for so long and these guys don't listen and they're going to end up getting screwed and this, that, and the other. Well, maybe they're in Eric's position. Maybe they just don't understand it. And that's fair because you probably wouldn't have guessed that out of everything I bought over the last year, very little of it was 100 plus.
Mhm.
Sure. Now, I'm going to go take this, stay in the same direction, but I want to touch on a couple of things because I wanted Eric to go first because he had a couple of things to contribute there for it. Obviously, you gave us a long runway. The irony is that you gave us about 2 hours worth of stuff that I could dig into, like truly 2 hours worth of stuff.
That's why I didn't upload any videos because I kept saying I was going to do it short and it kept getting longer and longer and longer. And I was like, shit, I'm just going to ask the guys if you guys will work.
If you guys will work with me on this, I'll try to do some of these points succinct. We can touch on a couple of things, but that way we won't be here all night. But I want to touch on a couple, and we can always have a part 2 if we need to. But let me touch on a few things high level, just to start off with. Okay, first thing, kind of going back to the original videos with Mangini, a lot of that stuff. I watched both of those things you're talking about. I'll leave a link in the description for folks if they want to check out the context, the Mangini video and also the discussion with Dustin. So we'll include those both in description. It might be beneficial for this discussion to check them out. I think Dustin's conversation with him is about 20 minutes, so it's not that bad. You can check that out and then check out Mangini's video. I think that's another 15 minutes, so not terrible. But if you check it out, it'll give more context to what Brandon was talking about. Okay, let me touch on a couple of things that you were talking about. I wish I had taken notes because there's a lot of good stuff there that we can play with. But one of the things is the perception thing. The idea that what Mangini was touching on. One important thing, though, that I think Mangini was talking about in that I would push back on is that a lot of times he's talking about how a lot of the people he knows, and he says, I know all or most of the vintage collectors I know also collect modern, and that may be 100% true. But I'll tell you why I always push back on those statements. The problem is that doesn't matter. Unless you know everybody in creation or you know everybody in the hobby, who cares? Everybody that I know collects this, or everybody that I know collects this way, or whatever that is. Unless you know 5 million people, or 10 million people, or 50 million people, or whatever it is, that's great. That's called anecdotal evidence. If I intentionally keep my friend group small and all we do is collect the exact same stuff, then I'm going to think the entire collecting universe is this.
Right.
I'm not saying his scope is too limited, but what I'm getting at is that's not a helpful statement. That whatever survey you've taken of your friends and fellow collectors that you know, that's good, but that's a small piece of a much bigger pie. So you can only take that at face value. That doesn't help too much. One thing that has changed from the present to the past is that we have social media. So social media will feed us certain things. That goes to Brandon's content piece. Social media. So when I'm looking at the modern collector, all I've got is whatever YouTube is giving me. Well, YouTube is giving me Roth cards flipping cards. It's giving me King of Cards flipping cards. It's giving me this guy flipping cards. It's giving Mojo flipping cards. It's giving this person. Well, the thing is, literally, folks that are watching, including those of the vintage persuasion, you are watching somebody, and I just talked about it a few minutes ago. 95% of the pickups that I have are modern. Eric, did I show you a vintage card in those pickups?
Did not.
But I do collect them.
Yes,
I have vintage bona fides. I can go into some depth on those things. I can go into depth on a lot of these things. The point is, I collect multiple things. I'm multifaceted in my collecting. I don't limit myself to one thing. Ironically, I'm in Canada, and the majority, how many were all those cards I showed hockey, Eric? No, most of them were not hockey.
Right.
I did show a couple of Mike Manano cards, yes. I also showed some Nats Fella, and I showed some Chosen Rosa. I collect many things, and I'm not even sharing most of the time my wrestling cards. That's on the other channel. So I'm a multifaceted. If you only watch certain things I do, you're going to have a certain opinion of where my collection is. Well, if you watch the other stuff, you'll get a little bit more of the vision of what the overall. And then I also collect a 53 Bowman color set, and I'm also working on the 63 Fleer base. It's not that I don't collect these things; is that I pick and choose my time. Because the budget is limited, I can't buy everything every single week all the time. I have to pick and choose my spots. That's an important thing. But again, it's down to whatever your perception is, because you can only see a certain amount of the picture. You're only seeing this much of the picture. The picture's like this. So you can't assume too much. That's a danger. And that it's not even a knock on what he was doing. He was giving his experience, which is perfectly valid. The problem is your experience is limited by whoever you surround yourself by and whoever you're talking to. And they're going to give you a certain answer. And then if you extrapolate that to everybody and assume, what did we say about assuming, right? What's the old saying about assuming?
You make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah. Let's not do that. let's not assume anything. Let's just start off with the idea that maybe what we're hearing around us is only a piece of the picture, of a bigger picture. If we start with that and expand beyond that, then we'll go. There are legitimate modern collectors, but there are also a lot of flippers. That is 100% true. There are also people who flip vintage. That is 100% true. That is all true. So the other piece, though, that Eric touched on there, that I did also kind of touch on as well, a lot of this doesn't become a thing. The reason that I can take the approach to this hobby and the content the way that I do is because truly, from the bottom of my heart, deep down to my core, I don't care. I don't care how you collect. I don't care the manner in which you collect it. I don't care how much of your budget you use or don't use. Borrow money, use a lending service, do this. It's your problem, not mine. Unless you are asking me for money, then I may have a few follow-up questions. Unless you are infringing upon my ability to collect the way that I want to, then we may have some issues. We may have some words. Unless you are telling me how I'm supposed to collect when it is not your money on the line, then I've got a problem with what you're doing. Otherwise, do whatever the hell you want. I genuinely could not remotely care less. But that's the philosophy I take to the whole thing. That's why I cannot take it too seriously, because to me, speaking of what you were talking about a moment ago, one of the things about vintage collecting is that it feels safe. Part of the reason it feels, and I also want to get back to the nostalgia thing. The nostalgia thing is also a very interesting point. I want to come back to that in a second. Please remind me. But about the safety. That's one of the things that always concerns me when I talk to somebody who really waxes poetic about vintage. That's fine. But I don't like collecting from a place of fear. If I'm collecting because, well, these don't go down in value, or they don't have the wild fluctuations, and I'm scared of wild fluctuation. So do you want the thing or not? That's the only thing I want to know. Do you want the thing or not? The question I asked you guys about that, percentage or, multiplier or whatever, I asked you how much more than what is conventional wisdom for a comp would you pay for a thing? I didn't say vintage or modern. I just said a thing you want for your collection. I don't care what category it falls under. The question was, would you be willing to pay over what would be a valid comp? The answer for some people is going to be yes. Oh man, I really want that thing. And if it's got great eye, we put it in the vintage realm. If it's got amazing eye appeal and it's a really good looking copy and it really feels fantastic, great. One of the things we said on Friday is that part of where, Geoff and Teapot, Eric's personal favorite, got some of it right, but also got some of it wrong, is that they fixated on one aspect of why vintage may struggle in the future. Not all of it. Yep. 52 Topps Mantle, I think, will be just fine. Jackie Robinson cards will probably be just fine. Willie Mays cards will probably be just fine. But there are certain cards that will just stick. And I'll give you a really concrete example, because I know I'm jumping all over the place, but there's a lot of meat to this bone. So maybe, like I said, maybe we'll do a part 2. I completed a 56 Topps set years ago. I worked on that set for many years. The 56 Mantle has both a gray back and a white back. So there's 2 variants, a gray back and a white back. I forget which one of the 2 I have. I have one of the 2. I like the copy that I have. I bought that copy years ago, the Mantle. A beautiful card. It's one of my favorite Mickey Mantle cards. Exactly. That's the one.
I have the gray.
It's one of my favorite cards, full stop. Okay? It's one of my favorite cards, full stop. That is one that I would consider having the other version of it as well, because I wouldn't mind having the 2 copies, the gray and the white back. But also because it would let me have a legitimate opportunity to have a second copy of the card. The point is this: the second copy of that card is going to cost me substantially more than the first one, even if they were in similar condition, because the market has increased. Counterpoint: there are some cards in my 56 Topps set that could use an upgrade. Some of them are really, really beat up. I could definitely upgrade them, and without too much difficulty. We talk about ComC all the time. I actually have one that I saved in my ComC thing. Funny enough, it actually works through this discussion. One of the cards that I saved on ComC. I just want to show you the card real quick. This is from the 56 Topps set. This is Windy McCall, pitcher for the New York Giants. Okay? Windy McCall, pitcher of the New York Giants. What do you know about Windy McCall, Brandon?
Not
the answer's nothing.
Thing.
He plays for the New York Giants, and he's a pitcher. Yeah, we know his nickname is Windy, and we know he's a pitcher for the New York Giants. Fair enough? Okay? Cool. By the way, what do you think of the card?
It's pretty nice. Flip it back over.
Decent. Nothing wrong with it. Like, it's a perfectly clean, reasonable card. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. It's sitting on ComC for $2.20, Eric.
Yep.
It's a perfectly and that will likely be an upgrade to a card that I have in my set. It's $2.20. How much less do you think it would have cost me 10 years ago to buy that card?
Not much.
About the same. It would cost me about the same. 15 years ago, probably about the same. Eric, Windy McCall.
Value.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is with inflation, it lost value. So in my point here isn't that vintage is going to zero. My point is that the market for Windy McCall is limited. It doesn't change the fact it was Brandon. If that's an upgrade to my set, which I believe it is, for $2.20, I get a nice little upgrade, and it'll go in my set. It'll go in my binder. My point is that a lot of those cards are going to be like that. The Windy McCalls are all over these checklists for these vintage cards, but Mickey Mantle is way higher than it was when I bought the first copy years ago. So that card will cost me more money. It's because of Mickey Mantle. It's because of Willie Mays. It's because of Jackie Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. You get my point. That's why I say I'm rushing through these, but hopefully you understand where I'm going with this. Okay, so that's one component of it. I don't like collecting from a position of fear. I don't collect because I'm worried about the value of my collection. Two examples that'll make my point. I'm zipping through these quickly so we can hit the bullet points here. The Chosen Rosen collection is literally the most anti-hashtag invest collection there. You can't call it anything but a collection. It is not an investment. Yeah. Any dollar I spend on it is a dollar wasted. But it amuses me. It amuses me to no end. But there is no value. No, it's literally setting money on fire. And I don't care. I'll still go out and look for those cards here and there. I came across that gold Prizm yesterday, and it had less than a day left, and I saw it was going to be for auction today. I made sure to set a sniper so I wouldn't miss it. I wanted to get it. Do I need that shit? No. But it amused me. That's why I bought it. I could have spent that. Listen, for the $15 I spent on that, I could have 7 Windy McCalls. Damn. I made my choice. That's my choice. Not your choice. My choice. Same thing. The Medano cards and a lot of those other ones, the Brett Favres. I could focus my attention on certain specific. I could spend my money more efficiently and hold my value better and all that great stuff, and that's fine. That's not what I'm here for. It's not. That's not why I'm collecting. Because if that's what I'm doing, guys, there are better places for me to park my money for investment purposes and that will hold value just fine or better. If that's all we're trying to do, if I'm just trying to hold value, there's better options for me. Cards isn't necessarily my best choice. That's not why I'm doing it. I collect a lot of shit that probably won't go up in value ever. I still collect Jamie Benn cards. You think his value is going up? Is it on the upswing? No. What are we doing? Last example. Medano Collection. I just said earlier in this show, and I've talked about it in the past, I got napkin math, probably spent $100,000 in Medano cards over the course of my lifetime for that collection. So don't you think that if my concern was value, Eric, then I should be pumping the hell out of Medano because the only way in long term that I'm going to do well on this is I need Medano to somehow become a first-tier Hall of Famer somehow, even though he's been retired for 15 years. I should be pumping the hell out of it because I have 6 figures in Medano.
He needs to win 6 more Stanley Cups.
And maybe we'll rig it. We'll do this like Gretzky assists. We'll just make it up. Maybe he just wins all the Stanley Cups now. He was on the Panthers the last 2 years. Little did you know. 2 more from Medano.
2 more.
So the point is, though, but you're getting my point. If I have 6 figures worth, $100,000, and I'm saying $100,000 American dollars, Eric, worth in one collection, shouldn't I be worried? Shouldn't I be terrified about my long-term value? And that's a lot of money to spend on one thing, don't you think?
No,
you think I give a shit?
Because it's been a 25-year plus,
30 in this case, but yeah,
enjoyment for you. You know,
it's been something that it's been my project for 30 years. My point is, I don't give a shit. Not because I don't care about $100,000, but the reality is I didn't spend it in one day. I didn't buy a collection for $100,000. I was chipping away at that for 30 years. Buying a card here, buying a card there, going here, going there, going to the expo, going on ComC and buying. I actually added up, Eric. I was looking at that earlier today because I was curious. Just ComC. Only ComC. Because ComC, you can actually pull down all the stuff you've ever bought. You can pull that information. I've spent more than $5,000 in Medano cards just on ComC alone. 580 cards in my collection came from ComC. And on ComC, it's base cards, low-end inserts, and parallels. It's not the high-end stuff. It's not stuff from the cup. It's not stuff. So that's the low-end stuff. $5,000 from one platform that I can actually pull and account for. I can tell you to the penny how much I spent on it. That's in US dollars. So tack on 40%. And then I had to ship that stuff.
Yeah,
Tack on shipping, tack on this, tack on that.
Just thinking that. Yeah.
Keep adding. More money, Brandon. There's just more money. Just shovel it in.
Mhm.
Just shovel it in. My point isn't to brag or say anything else except I didn't start collecting that because I was counting my money. There are better ways for me to do that if that's my goal from a collecting perspective. So clearly a modern collector does exist and a modern collector can exist and somebody can be, so clearly, hey, in case you need one, here's an example. I'll here because I don't give a shit. I also collect vintage as well sometimes, and I've got projects that I work on for that too. So I can see both sides of that world. But if you limit yourself and you only see that and you assume things, that's where you wind up with faulty conclusions. That's always going to be a big piece of the puzzle. One more thing shifting forward. Nostalgia. Let me come back to the nostalgia thing for a second. Nostalgia is an interesting thing because I understood Mangini's point about nostalgia, but I think he was kind of misunderstanding one component of nostalgia here. The nostalgia he pointed out was, what about collecting these players that you didn't get a chance to see personally? Which is a form of nostalgia. That is 100% true. But here's one that you may not have considered. For me, the collector who collects modern and vintage, my nostalgia is the process. I've been at this for 35 years. I didn't take a break. I've been doing it the whole time. I'm nostalgic for the process of hunting down these things, adding them to the collection. New or old, it makes no difference to me. I don't care. Wrestling isn't even a thing in terms of a sport. It's not. And some of these characters I've watched, some of these characters I haven't watched, some of these characters I've enjoyed what they've done. So when I'm doing it that way, if the nostalgia is for the process, Brandon, then it doesn't matter whether it's Babe Ruth or Fishboy. It doesn't matter. It's all the same because it's the process. Now, you may have players that you collect because there is a nostalgia. I have a nice Carlos Delgado collection. I was sorting through it the other day, and actually I had it at the desk, and I was flipping through. Hold on, let me grab it real quick. You guys will remember some of this stuff from the early 2000s. Just show real quick. There's a Topps Pristine. That's the gold refractor. So that's numbered to 70. It's a nice card. There's a retro fractor. Those are fun cards. They're actually pretty cool. I got these on ComC. Here's the Topps gold label. That's
Topps
the red label.
I still say Topps gold label is the best looking card set of all time. It's just, this stuff is so good.
Yep. So this is the gold label, class 2. So that's numbered to 50.
Ooh, all right.
So that's numbered to 50 right there. That's a good one. Here's another one. Here's another shiny. This one is numbered to 24.
Nice.
I got these all like on ComC. Here's a gold refractor. They got it from his time with the Mets. Here's another gold refractor from his time with the Mets. Every single one of those cards I got dirt cheap.
Yeah.
That's a guy who you can make a borderline argument that should be in the Hall of Fame. You could actually make a Hall of Fame pitch for him. He had 473 home runs. He retired because of a hip injury. His last full season, he had 38 home runs. He gets to play his final couple of seasons fully. There's no reason he doesn't get to 500 home runs. If we revisit it, if the veteran committees go and look at him again, they go like, maybe he didn't get a full look. What do you think happens, Brandon, if somehow he winds up in the Hall of Fame in the next decade or so? What do you think?
Oh, the demand will go up on him because then he becomes important.
I paid pennies for this shit. Pennies. Like it's embarrassing. You remember the platinum medallions, the ultra platinum medallions, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
The 2004 platinum medallion is numbered to 66. I just bought one on ComC today for $40. But he was a great power hitter in his day. He was runner-up in the 2003 MVP race to Alex Rodriguez, who got popped for steroids multiple times. What if, instead of getting popped, what if Alex Rodriguez gets popped for steroids early? Carlos Delgado wins the MVP in 2003. Now he's an MVP, a former MVP, to go along with his nearly 500 home runs and the rest of the. Again, the point is this. This is nostalgia for me. Delgado was one of the young guys when he started. Delgado's first season, Toronto, was 93. Technically, he has a ring, even though he didn't really play for that team. He's the last bridge to that 93 World Series team. But the majority of his career, he didn't have that chance. He played with Halladay. He played with some good teams. Shannon Stewart, Sean Green, great players. Couldn't put it together. But he was the power hitter for that time of that team. He had 4 home runs in one game. He had 9 RBIs for the Mets. Brandon, I know these. That's nostalgia. The traditional nostalgia. Because I remember that. I was at the Dome with me and a dozen of my closest friends watching Delgado ply his trade back in the day in obscurity. That's nostalgia. For these other guys, it's not nostalgia. So Mangini is correct. In the traditional nostalgia, if you didn't see them play, you can't connect it to that. But that doesn't mean, and he was talking about the history of the sport. He's collecting the history, of the sport, which is perfectly fine. So let me shift over one more thing. There's a lot of folks that talk about collecting the history of the sport. There is nothing wrong with that. Zero. Nothing wrong with it. But one thing I would point out is that that's a compulsion as much as anything else. We talk about gambling addiction. Well, what about stuff addiction? Because here's the truth. I like history too. I was a history major. That was my major. I was a history major. Eric, do you think I need to own shit from everything that I studied in history? Just because? Do I need to buy shit? Just, oh, well, I like this thing, so I have to buy something from it. No, I don't. No, I can still enjoy it for what it is. I can still appreciate baseball history. Yeah, I can still appreciate it. I can respect it. I can watch documentaries on it, read books about it, and do all this. That doesn't mean I need to buy a Ty Cobb card. That one thing does not necessarily lead to the other. If you would like a Ty Cobb card, in addition to, as a totem to connect you to the piece of history you learned about, that's perfectly fine. The bottom line is that I don't care what you do and what reason you do it for. That is your business. I'm not here to judge you. Unless you spend $12,000 on a J Cutler card.
And then
I'm judging you a little bit. A little bit of judgment on that one. Just a smidge of judgment. A little bit of judgment there.
A little bit.
But aside from that, no, man, do whatever you want. I'm the Josh Rosen collecting guy. Like, I'm not in a position to judge you.
Look at the players I collect. I mean, one reason, obviously, I have a very good reason that I collect Taylor, a great reason that I collect Robles. But let's be honest, neither one of them are going to be MLB Hall of Famers. Nowhere close. So, as you said, I'm not spending my money on this stuff for any other reason than I enjoy it. I'm not worried about, throw Robertson out there in the pump, right? That didn't work out, because I will assure you one thing.
You should have pumped so much harder.
My green PMG is probably not anywhere close to what I paid for it, and I know damn well I could buy a Cup RPA much cheaper than I paid for that one. But I can sit here and laugh and put them on display and enjoy them because I wanted them and I wasn't worried if they went down. Like,
yeah,
it happens. So
yeah. So the bottom line, though, is that I'm trying to separate a couple of things. So there was a lot of ground to cover. So hopefully you all kept up with me, because I know I was bouncing from things because I was trying to get through a lot there. The nostalgia thing is whatever you want to make out of it. I just gave you another version of nostalgia that actually covers a lot of ground, by the way. It could just be a nostalgia to the activity of collecting. Because what if we grew up never collecting anything and that wasn't really a thing we did? Would we still want to do it today? That's a question. For me, the answer is no. If I hadn't gotten in collecting early the way that I did at the time that I did, I probably wouldn't be collecting today. Because honestly, I don't need this. I don't need more stuff around me. Lord knows I got enough shit. I don't need more. I'd probably be better off not having more shit around me. Thanks. But the point is, because I did start off as a collector, I am still a collector, so I still collect. 1. 2, nostalgia can be for that as well. Important. 3, don't assume that the people around you collect a certain way. That means everybody collects a certain way. Don't assume. 4, modern, vintage, whatever, it's all the same. Who cares? Mind your business. Just worry about your own. You will be so much happier if you just mind your business. But the boxes are too expensive. Then don't buy boxes. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's not your problem.
It's not still fun without buying boxes.
Yeah. If it's not the way you want to do, kind of to Eric's point. If he doesn't understand it, cool. You don't need to understand it. What's great is you don't need to understand it. Because if it's not affecting your collecting, mind your business. If you manage that, if you figure out why you're collecting, why you're doing what you're doing, and what you want to get out of it, you'll be fine. The rest of it will take care of itself. Then you figure out your own budget. You figure out what you want to spend on stuff or what you don't want to spend on stuff. How much time you want to put into this or you don't want to put into this. What kind of content you want to watch or don't want to watch. It gets so easy if you don't worry about stuff that really doesn't pertain to you. You got enough to worry about your own shit.
I really, and again, it's assumption, but I do feel that a lot of the tension and the reason that this topic continuously gets brought up, or there's a separation, a divide there, is the content aspect of it. Because, there is this element of the collectors feeling that they don't get enough respect and that the new guys are stupid or whatever. And then, like, again, we said this earlier, but that middle ground of the modern collector it's not really recognized because the content, people just doesn't want to watch it. But to your point, that's okay. They don't need
It
to
is.
want to watch it if that's not what
Correct.
they're interested in.
Yep.
But I think that's part of the problem is we see that most of the successful, higher viewed, higher sub count channels play mostly in the flipping, investing, newer aspect of the game, and the vintage guys like don't understand why they're not getting more of that piece of the pie because they've been around longer, they have more knowledge, the history, the importance, all the value, all that stuff is supposed to be compounded down here. And I think that is where all of this forms from. If we didn't have the YouTube and all that stuff, if YouTube wasn't monetized and it was just random people on here sharing their collections, I think it would be a completely different ballgame.
Probably. I think so. We'll slowly wind down on that. But one of the other things that, like I said, to your point, is that realistic. Look, the algorithm likes engagement, and engagement is can you get people to respond and react to it? And it's easy bait to say to have that conflict. There is a divide because there are some people who not only don't understand, but actively try not to understand. That is a thing. And there are people who want to feel superior. So the point is, so if I'm right, I don't just want to be right. I want to tell you that I'm right. And I want to tell you why I'm right. That's more important. It's not important for me to do the thing that I think is right. It is more important for me to tell you that I'm right and then explain it to you. Where I'm sitting there like, if I have it all figured out, guess what? None of you are hearing from it because I'm keeping that shit to myself. If I'm that smart and I've already got it all figured out, Brandon, you know what? I'm keeping the genius in locked here, and I'm just going to do what I do, and the rest of you can all get it wrong. That's the way that I go. But for the most part, like I said, with a lot of it, I don't care. I'll watch the videos because I still get enjoyment out of it from my perspective as a viewer. I'll still enjoy it. I understand why it draws the engagement, but some people can't help themselves. You'll see them. They'll be in the comments section because the first opportunity, the first chance they get to reinforce whatever they believe, they're going to go in there and type. They're going to be right there. They'll be ready to go, fire away. Oh, it's this and this and this, or they'll give their theory, whatever their theory is, that pet theory is, and then we all get to hear about it if we check the comment section. That's the way it is. But there is a lot, so I appreciate you bringing up that topic. Honestly, we could do a part 2 later. No problem, because there's so much more to dig into, and we haven't even discussed Eric's various affinities for lemon.
Yeah,
like it's gotten to the point. It's gotten to the point of collecting addiction that he's even making up hockey players not real.
Oh, I do that.
That's when you go to the sickness, Brandon. That's when you get to the sickness. You don't want to get to the sickness. Don't go full Manoa.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go full Manoa. We've seen it. It ruins lives.
It
ruins lives. Just say it. Anyway, on that bombshell, that concludes this scintillating episode. We've got Eric Sanderson d'Or, future former, always 1986 Red Sox fan. Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cars, known associate of 540 Flips, and man of peace who's trying to philosophize to you people. It is like the cardboard Confucius. He's trying to help us all become Zen. Indeed.
Yeah, and I was actually going to put a warning out, and I didn't even need to because I wanted to let everybody know, like, there was no roid rage. There was no, like, I just wanted to have the discussion about it because I do think that, this topic comes up quite often, and I just don't get why we can't just collect, just have fun. Like, whatever floats your boat, as the old saying goes. Enjoy it.
So feel free in the comment section to put down your thoughts on this, because again, we covered a lot of ground. Brandon, you saw how fast I was able to go boom, 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 boom. I had to rush through a lot of stuff there. There was a lot of stuff there. But feel free if you want to elaborate and expand in the comments section. We appreciate the engagement. There will be a community post for the silly card of the week, so feel free to vote early, vote often. Let's see if we can break a record. Let's see if we can get to 60 votes this time around.
That'd be great.
Yeah, listen, we're trending upward and we appreciate it. But otherwise, yeah, put it in the comment section. You got any thoughts on that? There was a lot of ground there. And I'll include links in the description to those videos so you can check them out to get the full context if you want to check it out. And maybe you came with a different conclusion off of the videos. So then you're more than welcome to share that as well. And we'll revisit this conversation. There'll be more videos coming up on the channel, and we'll be live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the longest running episodic, whatever it is. And look forward this week to week 4 of our Sinlin coverage of the Battle of Massachusetts. Now, unfortunately, these updates are going to get a little bit shorter because it really gets difficult when we don't specifically have anything new to cover. But based on feedback, I feel we need to continue the bit. I can't help it, Eric. The feedback is the feedback.
Well,
Got to give the people what they want.
I mean, if the feedback's the feedback, what are you going to do?
Give the people what they want, Brandon. Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Episode 142 in the books. Catch you in the next one. Oh, one last thing, actually. Sorry. One last thing. We're only a month and a half behind on the audio now. I realized it a couple of weeks ago, so I started filling in. So you've probably been bombarded with audio if for some reason you poor souls are on audio. By the way, you probably found out earlier this week that Eric thinks that Jeff Wilson is the GOAT. No joke. You probably found out about that last week. Boy, were you surprised. Boy, were you surprised. That was a dark time. Brandon, that was a dark time.
Stand by my
literally
statement.
was. He had the dark glasses on.
Yeah, it was a really dark time. So slowly we're getting caught up. You're probably getting bombarded with episodes. Otherwise, just go to the YouTube. For the love of all that is holy, just go to the YouTube. Trust me. That'll get you up to date.
Definitely.
Anyway, that's it. We'll catch you in the next one.